Apocalyptic Black Technology System. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 144 The Silent Planet. Your Excellency Commander, the Xinjiang fleet was defeated, the Earth was defeated, and the Proxima Star fleet, with the current power of the Earth, human beings, and the Xinjiang fleet, is unmatched and invincible. Now send the Xinjiang fleet the last order the 3rd and 4th Yunchang battle groups of the Xinjiang fleet set sail immediately, fleeing across the starry sky, getting better and better. Don't return to Earth. Xinjiang fleet commander, Su Ran. Jupiter orbits on the Red Pioneer and Liang. The two captains fell silent after seeing this order, and they didn't speak for a long time. Boss, what are you going to do? What should we do? Li Yan asked Lin Yuandong. However, Lin Yuandong didn't open his mouth. He sat in his seat and looked at a few words in the message as it frozen. But, does he need an answer? Invincible, invincible. I'm afraid, it's already very clear what these 8 characters mean in such a situation. What to do? Should it be a very simple choice? Lin Yuandong remained silent from the first day when the swarms came to today, from the ice city to the starry sky, hundreds of millions of kilometers away from the Earth. So many things, so many experiences. This person, this boss, was so silent for the first time. Flame, burning fiercely. A frigate's shield was pierced, destroyed by random artillery, and turned into a dazzling fireball in space, but was left behind by the high-speed leaping Xinjiang fleet in the blink of an eye. There are 21 warships left in the Xinjiang fleet at this very moment. The propellers of the last 21 ships are spewing furious flames, turning into the only remaining black lightning in this dazzling white shadowless world. Forward, forward. In every battleship, people were staring at the Proxima Centauri battleship that was getting brighter and brighter in the distance. Even though their eyes were already burning red and red, they still refused to look away. The will to die is flowing in people's hearts. Maybe some people don't really want to die, but everyone knows that at this moment, they have no choice. Su Ran has no choice. He wants to fight off a Proxima Star warship. No matter what, he will also fight off a Proxima Centauri warship for his mother planet, for his dream of a comfortable and easy future. He also didn't want to see the Earth destroyed, his unfinished homeland destroyed. However, that's too late. The battleship was getting brighter and brighter. Its energy storage is close to the threshold, and the strike is ready to go. But now, the black lightning has still not come to it, and it has not been able to shake its shield at all. That's too late. The light erupted from a point on the 12 sides of the Proxima giant ship, and in an instant, it penetrated the sky and the Earth, connecting the galaxy and the stars. The streets of Shenzhen were crowded with people, and everyone was fleeing in panic, trying to escape to the nearest shelter. Give way, don't squeeze, get out of the way, you are my way. The girl named Xiaoyi and her father were also in the crowd. She was carried by her father and moved forward in the crowded crowd. Her bright eyes looked at the strange sky, and the surrounding noise and chaos seemed to have not entered her ears at all. In the movie, she just asked in a daze, is that an alien warship? It's so beautiful. Father was trying to move forward in the crowd, and he only responded perfunctorily. The girl didn't take it seriously, but said with a smile, why are you so panicked? The Xinjiang fleet will definitely defeat them, but why can't we see the warships of the Xinjiang fleet? They didn't abandon us, did they? These few questions finally made her father slightly stunned and came back to his senses. He was silent for a moment and said, no, the Xinjiang fleet will never abandon us. I believe that they must be fighting aliens right now, risking their lives and everything, so they must be able to defeat the aliens. Yes, Shenzhen Cannon Central Control Room boss, those logistics and management guys are gone. A little soldier in a special uniform looked at the giant cannon in the distance that had already started to rise a lot of steam due to overload and high temperature. The Shenzhen cannon is already overloaded. It can't go on like this, or we can avoid it for a while. Avoid it. In this room, many people looked at a soldier in front of the console. The soldier was bald, and he was not very good looking. He turned his head when he heard what he said. His expression even looked a little ferocious, and he said, they ran away. We can't run. We are the front line of Shenzhen Cannon, the person in charge, and the Xinjiang fleet is still fighting. They are still fighting. Our ground artillery is the only place that can support them. We must not get out of the way. We must not get out of the way. The cooling system of the cannon, something went wrong. Old Li and Old Chen, you guys go and have a look. However, no one moved. After a while, a soldier whispered, boss, The Xinjiang fleet is fighting, but anyone can see that they are mugs to the flame. We are useless at all. This is doing useless work. No if. This is not useless work. At this moment, the boss roared angrily. He turned his head, looked at his colleagues and subordinates in the room, and said word by word, "This is war, brothers. I know what you are thinking. But you have also seen that the thing is so big, it is estimated to be as big as the moon. The Xinjiang fleet may really be unable to win. It is really flying mugs into the flames. We may really be doing useless work, but they can do it in space. They are the ones who really face the ghost thing. They face more pressure than anyone else. We want them to look down and see that there are still forces on the earth supporting them and supporting them. These supports may be nothing. It is useful, but there is hope in it, and it is also the responsibility we must shoulder when we stand here. The Xinjiang fleet is dying. We can't let them die alone. We have to let them see. We have to let them see that we are still here, still supporting them, and still fighting side by side with them. The global united front still exists for a day, and we and the Xinjiang fleet are in the same robes. Our comrades are fighting. How can we flee in a hurry? So, this is our position. Anyone can go. We can't. Old Li and Chen, go check the cooling device. And Brother Yan, those guys from the technical team ran away. You go and take their place. We can't become blind. There was such a moment of silence in the room. The soldiers looked at each other. And then they all acted according to the order of their commander. However, when they were busy, did they see that in the sky? There was an extremely bright and hot lightning running through it. That is, flash of destruction. Chapter 145. Lu Chen. The sky's getting brighter. U.S. head of state Abbott stood on the lawn outside the White House gazing at this unprecedented spectacle. A gust of wind suddenly blew up on the ground, shaking the trees and rustling the vegetation, and the clouds in the sky are rolling rapidly. Under the gust of wind, these slow-moving clouds in the past are squeezed into a mess as if the fast-forward button was pressed, and flow quickly across the sky. Moreover, these clouds are all the color of crimson fire. A ray of light fell from the vault of heaven, lighting up the entire world. It is as if the gods enlightened in the fairy tales, but this is just the magnificent scene before the destruction. Albert saw the tall buildings in Washington city collapse like paper, and unknown and heart-pounding roars came from both the sky and the ground. These roars echoed in the sky, as if they came from a very distant place. It also seems to be issued from the depths of the ground that is close at hand. It sounded like a howl. This world, shrouded in swiftly moving clouds of fire, let out heart-piercing wails and screams. At this time, the helicopter was slowly landing behind the head of state. At the last moment of boarding the plane, he took one last look at the White House, which symbolizes the power center of American imperialism. There are huge cracks cracking on it, as if it is porcelain about to break. The helicopter lifts off. The field of vision zoomed out a little bit. The sprawling city of Washington becomes a thing underfoot. Albert saw huge cracks tens of meters wide opened in the ground. These cracks spread along the street, engulfing those who hadn't had time to escape, and the tall buildings collapsed one after another like dominoes being toppled down. It seemed to be piled up with mud and sand, and it was dumped into this devastating scene amidst huge dust waves and loud noises. The end of the world. Albert heard his presidential secretary tremble and say, according to the latest calculation, North America will be falling apart in the next hour or two. Lu Chen, and the head of state, listened to his secretary's report without saying a word, but inadvertently clenched his fists tightly. His gaze lifted from the ruined Washington, looking further afield as the helicopter raised its altitude little by little in the strong wind. He could truly see the source of the destruction. It was a beam of light penetrating the endless sky and earth, bombarding this planet from the banks of the galaxy and beyond the atmosphere. North America, it's over. Albert stared at the flash of light for a long time before turning around and continuing to issue emergency evacuation orders throughout the territory. Although long before the Proxima fleet appeared, the United States, as a rare power in the world, had already prepared a war plan for the worst-case scenario, such as the demise of the United States, and North America being turned into a scorched earth purgatory. There is a set of countermeasures, but no one thought that even when the swarms were sweeping the world, no one would have thought that this theoretically least possible solution would be activated today. Of course, under such destruction, even if there is a plan, the country will pay an unprecedented heavy price. The country was destroyed, hundreds of millions of people died, and only a handful of people could survive and become living lonely ghosts. North America has turned into hell on earth. But what about the land of Asia at this moment? Has it also been dismembered and divided by the Flash and fragmented? No, the answer is negative. At the moment when the Proxima Xinxiang-class battleship in the Eastern Hemisphere brilliantly launched a blow that shook the world, even in the highest command room in Kyoto, everyone's face was pale, and even the most important member was heartbroken. An unprecedented inexplicable panic surged up. However, there is no destruction to come. Although the physical impact of the two Star-class battleships on the Earth is still there, Asia still exists. How is this going? Why is there nothing? According to the information feedback from the national site, no place has been attacked by the international. The Philippines and Kyushu Island have also confirmed that the attack has not fallen. This is, what exactly is going on? The shocking emotion spread even earlier than the surprise of the rest of the life after the catastrophe. Everyone had an expression of disbelief written on their faces. They didn't know what happened to make this unavoidable and invincible blow. Like it was like a bubble that disappeared without any effect. Is it the Xinjiang fleet? No, Suran would desperately want to destroy and stop the proximity Xinjiang-class warship from firing, but he never thought of driving a battleship to learn from the movie to attack other people's guns and attack them because it is meaningless. In the era of digital warfare, the Xinjiang fleet has already confirmed from the rapidly rising energy levels of the Proxima Xinjiang-class warships that even if they go up there, it is meaningless. What's more, with the position of the remaining warships of the Xinjiang fleet at that time, even if Suran was dizzy and wanted to do this, she would have no chance to rush over. So what's going on here? The Earth may not have obtained detailed observation data, but Suran has seen it clearly. That ray of light was so bright and dazzling that it was impossible not to see it. The Proxima Xinjiang-class warship did indeed fire, and the flash of light fell from the sky like a sort of destruction in a fairy tale, breaking through the atmosphere. According to this calculation, its final landing point will be at the location of Shandong province, but this blow running at the speed of light failed to land on the ground. It broke through the atmosphere, but disappeared in mid-air. That's right, it's like opening a big hole in the sky above Asia on the Earth, pocketing this brilliant blow in one breath. If it wasn't because it was a continuous blow, it would be difficult to see how it was even visually disappeared. But the current situation is that the laser beam output by the Proxima Xinjiang-class battleship is like paper, without any power, and disappears at a position about 10,000 meters above Asia in the eastern hemisphere. Without even making any ripples, it's like being swallowed by a black hole. Accompanied by this strange situation, the Proxima Star-class battleship, which had been showing a strong and arrogant attitude since its debut, finally showed some reactions as it should. The Star-class battleship suddenly pulled up, away from the Earth. And the many small dodecahedron spaceships that were attacking the Xinjiang fleet also flew back quickly, as if they were facing a big enemy. What the hell is? Suran was only stunned for a moment, and then suddenly had a flash of inspiration. And suddenly realized the reason for this is the coward of the Earth. The coward is hidden on the Asian continent. As a pseudo-four-dimensional civilization, it has and must interact with the outside world. Because of this, it cannot sit back and watch Proxima Centauri blow up its three-dimensional exit. Chapter 146: The Stagnant Ship. Although Suran didn't know how the coward swallowed a bombardment of the Proxima Xinjiang-class warship, and his current detection capabilities of the Xinjiang fleet could not detect it, but this is definitely good news. At least the blow was slowed down. Moreover, if the coward was enraged and came out to clean up the Proxima Centauri fleet, that would be great. But Suran also knew that he just thought about this idea. That's the truth. Cowards are cowards, and the nickname given to them by the Spore life is true. After the bombardment of the Proxima Star-class mothership above the eastern hemisphere was completed, the light completely disappeared in the sky, and the eastern hemisphere returned to peace again. Asia remained the same Asia, as if nothing had changed, and it was unclear how the round was blocked attack. However, the Proxima Centauri fleet showed an extremely vigilant attitude, completely ready for battle. This is also normal. They are different from Suran, who has known the existence of cowards for a long time. For them, this situation is completely beyond their expectations, which means that human beings may have far more advanced military power than they have shown so far. Pigs eat tigers, or, there is an extremely terrifying civilization hidden on the Earth, and human beings are just their slaves. However, the Proxima Centauri fleet still maintains its own military force, raising its altitude and waiting for it, without any intention of retreating. Obviously, although they are vigilant, they still do not feel that the enemy huddled on the Earth has overwhelming power. If so, why not come out early? Even if you want to hit back, now you move your hand and make no sound. What is this? Now that you have done it, you must wipe it out in one fell swoop. This is the prudence of the Proxima Centauri fleet, and in their judgment, although the threat to the Earth has risen again in a short period of time, it is still not unmanageable at this time. In Suran's Yuncheng, in the separate cabin of the Spore life, Suran has not yet fully believed in them, and was afraid of revealing himself, so they were still not allowed to set foot on the front line during the war. Liu Tingting and the Spore life staring at the Earth. You talk to me, he The people of Proxima seem to think that the cowards are not strong enough. And they may be able to block their main guns, but they are not a threat at all. It's stupid. No, it's not stupid, it's too cautious. This is also an ancient civilization. They discovered that there was a living planet near at hand and immediately mobilized all their force to kill it. It is enough to observe it for so long. They have experience. They are much stronger than we expected. They want to fight, and they do have the confidence to fight. They are indeed powerful, and the civilization may indeed be old enough, but they are just a group of stunned youths who have not even experienced the verge of genocide. We should advise Suran to flee here immediately. The Proxima fleet is bound to make a big mistake. Can't stay here. At the same time, in the bridge of the Yunchang ship, Your Excellency, Commander, we have detected abnormal fluctuations in our calibration site on the moon. In just a few seconds, all the stations we arranged on the moon and the robots lost contact. Suran checked the data immediately. The analysis report of the expert group and Xianao quickly came to a preliminary conclusion. Li Yilin said. We have not been able to analyze the accurate results. We can only judge that this is some kind of regular information radiation or something else. We have separated many layers from it. The first layer is electromagnetic waves. The second layer is dark energy. The third layer seems to be some kind of Higgs wave form. And the fourth layer we can't analyze. And at this moment, the Proxima Xinxing class battleship in the distance seemed to have noticed the abnormality here. The huge ship turned around in the air and aimed at the moon behind. The two behemoths faced each other far away in the starry sky. It was as if two giants were wary of each other. Who sent a request? Your Excellency Commander, what should we do? Attack, Li Yilin said. Commander, the Proxima Star warship in the Western Hemisphere has started to move this way, and it has to turn around. At almost the same time, the Spore Life representative Liu Tingting also sent a message. We recommend withdrawing. Neither Proxima Centauri nor cowards can be handled by you or us now. In the words of you humans, 36 strategies go for the top. Suran glanced to the earth under her feet, gritted her teeth, and was about to make a decision. However, at this moment, the field changed again. A blurred ray of light suddenly shot out from an unknown place on the moon, and even pierced through the body of the dodecahedron star-class battleship like lightning. However, the ray of light itself seemed to have no lethality, but it failed to damage this huge ships deal any form of physical damage. But a change has been made, Your Excellency, Commander. The parameters of the Proxima Star-class warship on the front have changed drastically. Its mass suddenly changed from hundreds of millions to 100 grams in just 1 second, and its light-emitting frequency and operation instructions all stopped. It froze. Suran immediately raised his head and looked at the magnificent dodecahedron spaceship outside. That's right, at this moment, even without analysis, he could see it and come to such a conclusion. The dodecahedron star-class battleship suddenly entered a strange state of stillness. Not only is its huge main body of the battleship no longer moving in the universe, but even the dazzling light on its body is no longer flickering. Instead, this Proxima Star-class battleship is frozen in space like a stop-frame painting at this moment. It looks like an immovable future concept spaceship model in the Future Science and Technology Exhibition Hall. The light emitted by the moon has disappeared, but the dodecahedron spaceship is rigidly stuck there, unable to move, as if it has really become a lifeless stone planet. And the probes placed by the Xinjing fleet on the moon have all lost contact just before the light burst out, and it is impossible to know what is going on the moon. How can the Proxima Centauri warship stop in space? And its mass is so strange. It can drop to 100 grams in an instant, but Suran is not a fool. He suddenly realized that there must be something on the moon. This thing is probably closely related to cowards. It came out, otherwise, Suran had been on the moon before. Why wasn't he attacked? Suran even thought of a terrifying possibility. In an instant, the coward has been hiding all the time, but it is not difficult for Suran to find out that there is no force on the earth that can fight against this pseudo-four-dimensional civilization. So, what is the coward afraid of? What are you hiding? But now, as soon as the coward conspicuously blocked the Proxima fleet's monstrous cannonball, the moon immediately moved. The answer jumped into Suran's mind almost instantly. Something is on the moon, staring at the earth all the time, looking for cowards. Because of this, cowards, a pseudo-four-dimensional civilization, can only hide, and their lives are not as good as human beings who are almost primitive compared to them civilization, and now, the Proxima Centauri fleet has been found by them. Chapter 147 The Last Chance. Extraterrestrial space. The huge dodecahedron battleship stopped operating, and it was frozen in space like a stop-frame painting. It remained motionless, and even the radiation and electromagnetic waves it emitted disappeared. The scene was extremely weird, and if at this moment, you can stand on the side of this star-class warship rushing towards the moon and look back, you can clearly see that this huge warship is extremely distorted, and its elevation and style have become superior. Hundreds of millions of parts are pulled apart layer by layer like being dismembered, spreading all the way to the extreme depths of the universe, and in each of these pulled apart faults, every creature, every device, and even gas is in a state absolute stillness. But, standing on Suran's observation system, the Proxima Centauri warship he saw was just stationary, but he couldn't observe that extremely weird phenomenon at all at this moment. Suran made a judgment. He wants to evacuate. The development of the situation at this moment has completely exceeded his expectations, as if he was determined to intercept it just now. Suran's current thinking is also decisive, that is, to abandon the Earth and withdraw immediately with a fleet. The reason is also very simple. The second Proxima Star warship is approaching, and its target is still the Xinging fleet. This strange situation may have far exceeded the expectations of the Proxima Centauri, but their tactics are still clear. Inside and outside the Earth, never let a foreign race go. This is also amazing courage. A Proxima Xinging-class battleship has fallen into a strange state, but they did not rescue it immediately. Instead, they wanted to forbid all creatures on this habitable planet from having a chance to survive at all costs. From this battle, Suran could see the determination of the Proxima Centauri fleet now that the war has begun. Even if the two star-class battleships are all confessed here, there will be permanent troubles. The determination to destroy everything on this planet, and any race that is against it, will be wiped out under such circumstances. Suran also had to make a decision. Although the situation on the moon was weird and even fixed the Proxima Centauri battleship, it was unknown whether the things on it were friends or foes, and there was no next move. Judging from the situation, retreat is undoubtedly the best choice. Otherwise, if the fight continues, the Earth does not know what will happen, but the Xinging fleet will definitely die here meaningfully. It is better to keep a breath of fire than to die in battle. The survival of the Xinging fleet in this battle is meaningless. Suran also has to admit that his Xinging fleet has no power to turn the tide of the battle. If it stays strong, it will be the first to be annihilated. Even his Type I aircraft carrier is too weak in front of the Proxima Xinging-class battleship, and small Suran didn't expect that his backhand would not even have the chance to make a move, and with cowards and the moon, the situation on the Earth may become more strange and complicated, but it may not really be so fast. And if we can lead the fleet out of the siege today, we will have a chance to return home in the future. The wandering starry sky is not scary. The hatred of eternal life without retribution is terrible. And when Suran conveyed the order to retreat to the whole fleet, everyone fell silent at the same time. Suran is also conveying the news to the global United warships on the ground and the headquarters of the Xinging fleet. The Xinging fleet is about to set sail. This is the only chance to get out. A Proxima Xinging-class warship is completely static, and now there is only one star-class warship, and the deadlock has been broken. And when the Xinging fleet slowly turned around, the second huge dodecahedron star also competed for favor on the other side of the Earth and slowly turned its huge body at the same time. In low Earth orbit, Lee Huxon's frigate hadn't completely sunk into the atmosphere. Because of the great change just now, he slowed down the speed of descent. At this moment, he also gritted his teeth and ordered the frigate to rise again to meet the Beijing fleet withdrew to the starry sky. Lee Huxon's judgment of the situation is not so deep, so far, but he knows that he has to follow the fleet, so maybe not all the wounded on his battleship can survive now, but his Captain Tuong will have a chance to live longer. Go down. This may be somewhat selfish, but it is Lee Huxon's only small selfishness. But Lee Huxon slowly raised his head and looked at the second Proxima Star warship that had turned around its huge body. He understood that even if he wanted to really embark on the road of escape, he had to break through the last blockade of the Proxima Star fleet, is also the strongest blockade at the far end. The armor of the huge dodecahedron battleship rises layer by layer, and a series of flashing cannons are slowly protruding from it, while a large number of dazzling dodecahedral conical spaceships are also roaring out, spreading all over the field of vision. Everywhere is bright and bright. The only 18 warships left in the Xinging fleet are crashing into the bright galaxy here. At the same time, on the ground, Kyushu Island, the temporary headquarters of the Xinging fleet. Suran's order to flee to the starry sky was delivered immediately, but the old man Zhang Jianguo immediately took action, using the last few transport planes and flying saucers parked in the headquarters to send a group of people into space. The Xinging fleet has suffered heavy losses. They need manpower to roam the stars. I have to send a group of people, And I have to send them a group of strength? These are the words of the old man. The old man didn't even let his grandson board the battleship, because the transport plane was limited, and the number of people who could be sent up was limited. He had to send people who could be used immediately on the ground. A large number of people surged, and batches of reserve soldiers of the Xinjiang fleet boarded the transport plane, and Hoshino Zhengsha and Meng Yibai were still standing by the barracks in the corner. Hoshino Zhengsha asked, "Aren't you going?" Meng Yibai shook his head. "I am the swarm, and the Xinjiang fleet is gone. So am I then on this planet. Who can fight the Proxima fleet?" Hoshino Zhengsha glanced at her unexpectedly, but the girl just stared blankly at the bright starry sky. "What about you? Aren't you going? Are you worried?" "Worried about that, Captain Tong, your good friend? I won't go either." Hoshino Zhengsha said, "You stay because you believe they will come back, right? So I want to stay too, and I want to guard this land as I am here. We have to let them know there are still people fighting on this planet, and they can travel across the starry sky and accumulate strength with confidence. Because we will guard this planet and wait for them to return home." Meng Yibai was still staring at the sky. She couldn't see where the Xinjiang fleet was, but could only see the two huge Proxima star warships overwhelming the world, slowly clenching their fists in their sleeves. "That's right. We will stay here, keep here. Maybe tens of millions of people will die, but I hope that when they come back, when the Xinjiang fleet returns, this planet will definitely not be a scorched earth and hell. There will still be human survivors on the watch." Chapter 148. The Xinjiang fleet, only one name. The streamer is piercing the starry sky. That was the intensive shooting of the Proxima Xinjiang-class battleship, and with its firing, thousands of dodecahedral conical spaceships were attacking from the front, blocking the way forward of the Xinjiang fleet, trying to completely intercept them here, strangle and destroy. And the Xinjiang fleet is also firing. At this moment, the tactics of the Xinjiang fleet have changed again, with the sole goal of getting rid of the Proxima Centauri fleet and jumping into the jump channel. At this moment, Su Ran was circling a large distance, trying to distance himself from the Proxima Xinjiang-class warship first. However, this is not optimistic. The space is vast, and Su Ran can't go around the other side of the Earth, and under the current situation, he dare not go around the moon. There is no shelter. At this distance, he will always be in the vicinity of the Proxima fleet. During the shooting range, he reset the channel and circled on a large scale, but he was only able to temporarily avoid most of the beam energy weapons of the enemy ships. Although Su Ran used this lateral movement to quickly adjust the direction, allowing the Xinjiang fleet to change from facing the Earth and being surrounded by two ships of Proxima Centauri to facing the boundless starry sky, the situation did not ease much because of this, and because the Xinjiang fleet came to a more open area and got out of the way of another Proxima Star-class warship that was frozen. This made the Proxima fleet's attack even more unscrupulous. The Proxima Star-class warships followed at a leisurely pace, and a large number of dodecahedron-shaped spaceships were killed on both sides. Su Ran raised his head. Even if he didn't go through the warship's radar system, he could still see the two wings of the Xinjiang fleet through the holographic simulation of the battlefield of vision. Little by little, overtaking Xinjiang was facing. That was exactly the encirclement of the two small warships of Proxima Centauri. A huge encirclement spanning tens of thousands of kilometers is about to be formed. Su Ran wanted to forcefully lead the Xinjiang fleet to jump out of the encirclement, but what greeted him was the fierce artillery fire from the Xinjiang-class battleship. Already in a condescending position, the Xinjiang fleet couldn't even raise its head, but was instantly pressed down again. It could only be forced to the established course and watch the encirclement circle form at the end of the field of vision. Two rays of light are about to close together. The moment they close together, the Xinjiang fleet will completely become lambs in the sheepfold, exposed to the complete attack of the Proxima fleet, making it difficult to advance or retreat. But Su Ran had no choice. He had to want to evacuate, otherwise he would die no matter what. It was better to be surrounded by one Star-class warship than to be killed by two Star-class warships. At this moment, the captains and crews of many secondary warships, they even showed expressions of deep helplessness and despair in the second battle group. In the frigate under the command of Su Yaoang, this burly woman who has always been known for her toughness looked at the brilliance and the flashes of the starry sky, and felt powerless for the first time. Hit, couldn't beat, run, no, this is the death of mankind. Is it the death of the Xinjiang fleet? However, at this moment, at the far end of the field of vision, the two sections of dazzling light in the dark starry sky, which were about to close together, suddenly exploded. A large piece of dazzling fire. At the same time, a large number of Proxima dodecahedral conical battleships were destroyed on the spot, turning into clusters of extraordinarily bright and grand fireworks in space, and amidst the fireworks, battleships are crossing the line of fire, piercing through the encirclement of the Proxima fleet that is about to be formed in one fell swoop. That is, Sue Ran narrowed her eyes slightly in the Xinjiang fleet. Among the warships, everyone was excited when they saw this scene, showing an excited expression. That's her third and fourth battle group. It's Captain Kiao. It's Captain Lin. I knew it. I knew it. They must come. They must come. There is a chance. There is a chance. Even Su Yaoyan clenched his fists, showing excitement in such a situation. There is nothing more invigorating than reinforcements from one's own side. However, almost soon, the excitement of many people gradually turned into solemnity because they were too excited at the beginning. They gradually realized that the arrival of the third and fourth battle groups might not be such a good thing. Su Ran's face became even more gloomy, and she immediately sent out questions to Qiao Xiangjun and Lin Yuandong. Are you crazy? My order is for you to escape from Jupiter's orbit immediately. What are you doing when you come back? What are you doing when you come back? On the Red Pioneer? Qiao Xiangjun didn't answer. He and Lin Yuandong's two battle groups and Su Ran's troops who were about to flee came towards each other. Looking forward from their angle, not only could they see the fleeing Xinjiang fleet, you can also see the Proxima Star-class battleship chasing after it, and even the Blue Earth. Of course, Qiao Xiangjun knew why Su Ran scolded them, because tearing up a mere dodecahedral conical spaceship could not fundamentally solve the problem, but the huge ship behind it, which could make people feel fear even just by looking at it, was the real threat. The more people come, the more people get trapped, Qiao Xiangjun said slowly. At this time, 6 months ago, in the cathedral outside Aodongwei, I lost all my comrades in arms and survived alone. Today, my behavior may be stupid, but, this time, I don't want to be that last survivor. On the other hand, Lin Yuandong laughed and said, Brother Su, we are the Xinjiang fleet with only one name. We ran away and left you behind. What is that? We brothers, we have to walk together and survive together. That's called surviving. Behind the speeding Xinjiang fleet, the huge Proxima Xinjiang-class battleship is slowly pressing down on the money. In front of it, the Xinjiang fleet's battleship group looks so small and powerless its guns blared, and every surface began to gleam light again. But Su Ran was speechless. He looked at the two battle groups that were coming towards him, took a deep breath, and felt that his heart seemed to be boiling with blood. He said, well, let's kill together. No. But this time, Qiao Xiangjun interrupted Su Ran. He said softly and with a smile, Brother, we can't fight out together. Hearing these words, Su Ran's heart skipped a beat. In an instant, he understood what this man, this cripple Joe, wanted to do. Lin Yuandong immediately excitedly said, Cripple Qiao, don't be stupid. This is what I want to do. You are from an orthodox military background. I can't keep up with the idea of the fleet at an early age. You can't die in here, wandering in the starry sky. Brother Su still needs you. Didn't we agree before? Today I'm coming. I'm here to clear the way for our fleet. I'm here. Chapter 149. This is our hometown. Brother Dong, how many warships do you have left? Qiao Xiangjun shook his head with a smile, and said, Your battle group has already paid a heavy price for blowing up the 7,000-meter warship. Even if you want to stop it, it's up to you. It's impossible to stop the Proxima fleet with this little power, right? So, Brother Dong, let me, our third battle group, create the last chance for our Xinjiang fleet. Most of my fleet are soldiers, and my choice is also their choice. It is our eternal glory to secure the country and die before the battle. The starry sky is too far away and too long for us, and we can't imagine what it's like to wander away from our homeland with hatred. So please let us cruelly leave that life to you in space. The two battle groups of the Xinjiang fleet that entered from the outer circle were slowly separating. Qiao Xiangjun's third battle group is raising the altitude led by the first flagship, the Red Pioneer. But Qiao Xiangjun's words were echoing in the Xinjiang fleet. Qiao Xiangjun will continue to charge with a third battle group to stop the enemy ships. Please don't turn back to the Xinjiang fleet. Don't have to turn back in the dark starry sky. The third battle group passed by the Xinjiang fleet led by Su Ran towards the earth like an arrow from the string, and rushed towards the Proxima Star-class battleship in the front. Who trembled. Your Excellency, Commander. Su Ran felt as if something was pressing on his heart. It was so heavy. He looked at the flashing light, and said word by word, the whole fleet is advancing at full speed, ready to jump. The distance between the Xinjiang fleet is getting farther and farther. The third battle group has launched a suicide attack, using every inch of death to hold back the Proxima fleet. In the dark starry sky, There are explosions of the 3rd Battle Group battleship everywhere flash in the icy starry sky. The Proxima Centauri fleet lined up one by one, and each battleship flickered like a flashlight, struck, extinguished, and flickered again. It seems that the entire starry sky is their light, and under this light, the 3rd Battle Group appeared so fragile and powerless. All the Enlightenment-class battleships and frigates were fired, the frigates and the Cloud City were all shot. They really did. They briefly held back the magnificent Proxima fleet. Using Death in Life, your personal mailbox received an audio mail from Captain Kiao Xiangjin at the last moment of jumping into the Leap channel. Su Ran looked back at the battlefield. Kiao Xiangjin's last audio mail had already begun to speak slowly. His tone was so calm. Su Ran, I just recorded this temporarily. This is the first time I've used this feature. I actually want to say sorry to you because I was a spy in the Xinjiang fleet, of course. Because of my failure, it's hardly a secret in the fleet. Brother Dong teases me about it every day, and it seems like you don't care, but the fact is that I did become a spy, and you still treat me as a friend, a brother, and even tolerate me as this spy. Usually I can't open my mouth, but today, this may be the last time I have to say thank you, and I'm sorry. Also say I'm sorry to Brother Dong. When I came here before, I did agree with him that he will come to take this last journey. I don't think he'll blame me either. Don't think that I sacrificed for everyone. I really just don't want to leave Cripple Joe. Su Ran listened, at the last moment of the jump. Her eyes were blood red, and she hissed word by word, send me a message to the Proxima Star Fleet. Tell them, the extermination of the clan and the hatred of the sky, no matter where our Xinjiang fleet goes, no matter where it goes, whether it is a living person or a ghost who died as a ghost, this day will always be remembered. Return to the homeland, and avenge this blood hatred. Far empty flames of explosions came and went one after another. Warships were martyred, and Su Rushan was also killed in battle. Kiao Xiangjin stared into the distance. His last letter should have already arrived at Su Ran's place. Right, Su Ran, although I have been in our Xinjiang fleet for a long time, deep down, I still think I am a soldier. I grew up on this planet, fought on this planet, and my relatives and friends are all buried here, so I can't watch other people trampling the ground. If this planet is going to perish, then I must die before that, because this is my homeland. So, to die here, before my homeland, is my own choice. And it is also the best destination for my generation of soldiers. The Red Pioneer was shaking violently. The shield has been penetrated, and the blow of the enemy ship is like a vast ocean of light roaring. There is no room to hide even. Kiao Xiangjin stood up from his captain's seat, and his last glance was at the planet behind the Proxima Star-class battleship. That blue planet, native land home, it is also his burial place. The light engulfed the Red Pioneer, and the huge Yunchang-class battleship collapsed and exploded in space one by one. The dazzling flash became the soldiers' last spotlight. Xinjiang fleet, the 3rd Battle Group, the whole army was wiped out. Of course, now, I am a soldier of the Xinjiang fleet, so, Su Ran I. Kiao Xiangjin here, on behalf of all the fighters of our 3rd Battle Group, I would like to send my last blessings to the Xinjiang fleet. I hope that this journey to the starry sky will be bright and smooth, and the future can be expected. But please don't forget, my bones are buried here, my homeland, my hometown, and I will always have a revenge. At the same moment, the far end of the starry sky, unknown land, the Xinjiang fleet is jumping out of the jump, and the scarred warships are extremely tragic, but they don't wait long before entering the jump and moving away again. Jump, escape. The starry sky is changing rapidly, and everything is pulling away. The Xinjiang fleet made some changes with reference to the swarm's interstellar navigation chart, and made a leap on a possibly safe path, away from the Earth and away from Proxima Centauri. But there was a deathly silence in the Xinjiang fleet on the Yuncheng. Li Yilin raised her head worriedly. Since the last order sent to the Proxima fleet, Su Ran has been sitting there without saying a word or giving an order. Is it because it is completely out of battle now, and there is no need to issue orders, or? Li Yilin opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but when the words came to her lips, she couldn't say a word. In the fleet, everyone was silent. Su Ran sat on the first captain's seat, with the dark starry sky in front of him, the Earth, the Proxima Centauri battleship, and the flames have all disappeared. The endless starry sky so dark they are standing in this darkness at this moment like a lone beast in a dark forest. From this moment on, they are wanderers of the stars. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1, Day and Number 039, Rigon. The Xinjiang fleet is gone. Damn, how could they escape? How could they escape? In Kyoto, in the war room, some people were silent, some were scolding the fleeing Xinjiang fleet, some sighed with their hands on their foreheads, and some were staring at the holographic global map, frowning and thinking about what to do next at this moment. The change of the situation, the almost foreseeable and terrifying future made many important people change color, and even lost their positions like ordinary people. The more you know, the more you realize how dark the road ahead is at this moment. Even the most important person was left out in the cold. Li Jianbang was holding the intelligence officer beside him, staring at the other person's eyes, and asked again slowly. Say it again, Your Excellency First Officer, it is true. It has been fully confirmed. The third battle group of the Xinjiang fleet was wiped out in order to delay the pursuit of the Proxima fleet. Under the intensive bombardment, all were killed in battle, and there were no bones left. The three battle groups of the remnant of the Xinjiang fleet headed by Commander Su Ran, including several transport planes that took off later, a total of 29 warships have all entered the transition and left the solar system. Cut off all contact with us, and now I don't know where it is. It is a fact that the Xinjiang fleet failed miserably and fled. The only thing left by the Xinjiang fleet is a string of messages sent to the Proxima Centauri fleet before entering the jump channel. There was a loud bang. Li Jianbang was unsteady and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Jin Xian, who was standing beside him, reached out his hand in time to help him. However, under Jin Xian's gaze, he could clearly perceive that in such a short period of time, this originally hale and hearty controller of China's power center seemed to be 20 years old, standing still a little bit unsteady, and the movement here finally brought everyone in the room back to their senses, and they all focused on Li Jianbang. Here Li Jianbang nodded at Jin Xian, who was supporting him, and asked again, what is the message? What was the last message that the Xinjiang fleet sent to the Proxima fleet? Death of the family, the hatred of the sky? No matter where our Xinjiang fleet goes, no matter where it goes, whether it is a living person or a ghost who died as a ghost, they will always remember this day, from generation to generation, just to return to their homeland and avenge their blood hatred. The intelligence officer read out the words after considering his tone. Hearing this, some people in the room fell into deep thought, some smiled, some patted the table, and even forgot that the first important person was still here. What does this mean? Has the Xinjiang fleet already acquiesced that Earth is finished? But does he really want to watch the nearly 1 billion people left on Earth being massacred by the Proxima fleet? What's the use of keeping this threat? However, at this moment, a hearty and excited applause suddenly sounded in the field. Good. Everyone looked over, but found that it was Li Jianbang. The first official said, what are you looking at? The Xinjiang fleet ran well, and the matter has come to an end. Don't they run away and stay to be buried with us? And this threat is not only for the Proxima fleet, but also for the Proxima fleet. We have heard that the Earth will not perish, and 70%, 80% or even 90% of a billion people may die, but this is still not a moment of genocide. Look up at the sky, and there is still a warship frozen in space in Proxima Centauri. The Xinjiang fleet is still wandering. As long as the Proxima Centauri fleet does not solve the troubles on the Earth, find and annihilate the Xinjiang fleet, they will never be able to launch a devastating blow to the planet under our feet, and we, too. There will always be a slight wiggle room. What does this mean, Your Excellency First Officer? I don't quite understand. This time it was Jin Xian who answered. He smiled and said slowly, because the Proxima fleet is here today in such a battle to exterminate our race and eliminate future troubles forever. Listening to these words, many people began to show their comprehension, while some people were panicked and still couldn't understand. But the Mr. Number 1 official has turned around and stood in front of everyone again, but his figure is becoming more and more tired because, no matter what, the suffering of the planet and the death of thousands of innocent people will become inevitable. Next, I'm going to give an order. As the old man opened his mouth slowly, those doubtful and enlightened people stopped talking and looked at him respectfully. Record what I say next, and then, before the destruction comes, I want it to reach every corner of the planet, every survivor. The old man stepped forward and came to the window, looking up at the sky with his hands behind his back. There are fireworks in full bloom in the sky. The Proxima fleet is removing the satellite arrays of the circumplanetary defense system one by one behind him. The recording officer and staff were turning on the equipment, and the voice of the old man was slowly ringing out. Today is destined to be a sad day because the Xinjiang fleet was defeated, humans were defeated, and North America even sank on land. Many people died, many countries perished, and the enemy still hangs high in the sky. That's not a god, it's just an extraterrestrial creature. but they are no different from invincible gods just now. But, please, everyone who is still alive, take a good look at yourselves, look at those who are still alive around you. That's right, too many people died today, and more people will die tomorrow and in the future, but if you can live and there are still people alive, the human race will not perish. The Proxima people want us to perish, but why do we want to perish like this? The extermination of the clan and the hatred of the sky? No matter where our Xinjiang fleet goes, no matter where it goes, whether it is a living person or a ghost who died as a ghost, this day will always be remembered. Return to the homeland and avenge this blood hatred. This is the last message left by the Xinjiang fleet. They are still working hard. They have become homeless wanderers with bloody hatred, but we are still at home. Why can't we abandon our fear and take up arms? Defend our homeland. Starting today, I declare that China will have no borders. The earth is China. China is the earth. Huaxia will fight against the Proxima fleet with all its strength, save every life with all its strength, and survive with all its strength. A catastrophe is approaching, and the building will collapse. I hope that from today on, there will be no borders, races, or grievances on this planet. I hope that from today, you and we on this planet will only have one name. We are all human beings. An inch of mountains and rivers is an inch of blood. One with a Lois and one with a soul. As long as human beings are not killed, we will stay in our homeland forever. We need to let the Proxima fleet know as long as they can't really wipe out our dead race for a day, this eternal blood feud will never be extinguished. Proxima was defeated in the battle. Qiao Xiangjun died in battle. I don't know if you will leave the readers, but I have thought about this plot carefully. No matter from any angle, it is impossible for the Xinjiang fleet at this stage to beat the Proxima fleet, and since it's Star Wars or something, it's really meaningless to push the invincible flow horizontally. Everyone writes that the protagonist Earth rises and kills a super civilization in a daze. What's shocking in the live broadcast of the entire universe, the 4-dimensional and 5-dimensional civilization is no different from the 3-dimensional same. Actually, I could write like this, but I still didn't do that. Although our book is considered half-hearted and relatively brainless, there should always be a plot. I am also an author, and I have been writing for many years. Maybe the writing is still very good, but I will work hard. Maybe I will be a eunuch because I can't make money. These are things that can't be helped. I can only guarantee that every chapter and every plot I write is at least something I thought out by patting my head instead of patting my ass. After the Battle of Proxima Centauri, I originally wanted to write a volume of Wanderers and a volume of Returning Home, so the plot development may be better. Chapter 2 Turmoil. England. London. The white line rising between the sea and the sky in the distance was crushed for the second time. From a distance, it seemed that the flat line suddenly lost its support, twisted and scattered, and fell into the sea. In fact, it was the credit of the British fighter group disasters stop at the moment of formation on the tower. The elderly Queen stared at this scene, and the latest news from the frontier of space reached the ears of this kind-faced old man almost immediately. At this moment, the cabinet and the Prime Minister have already made a preliminary response plan. The Queen listened silently, but kept her eyes on Yuan Kong. That tsunami has returned to the sea, but the haze covering the sky has not dissipated. Between the sky and the earth, a strong wind is blowing. This ancient city seems to feel something, struggling and crying in the strong wind. North America. The sky has turned crimson red, and the clouds are rapidly rolling in the air as if the fast-forward button has been pressed. It even makes people feel that they have come to a strange planet with weird weather and amazing wind speed. The earth is crumbling and sinking like a jigsaw puzzle dropped from a height. Looking around, the prosperity of this continent is unstoppably disintegrating. The seawater poured back, high-rise buildings collapsed, and a terrifying hurricane formed, whimpering and rampaging across the tragically sinking land. A vision of the end of the world. This devastation devastated the North American continent more completely than the earth-ending cataclysm of the movie 2012, and at this moment, a huge shadow enveloped the helicopter on which the U.S. head of state Albert was riding. It was an Enlightenment class warship purchased by the U.S. from Suran of the Xinjiang fleet, and the other 2 destroyers purchased by the U.S. followed the Enlightenment class warship and flew side by side in this end-apocalyptic world. Albert, on the other hand, entered the Enlightenment class battleship in the center through the tractor beam tower for the first time. Compared with the helicopters that sway with the wind as if they could fall with them, the Awakener class warships appear so stable and safe. Even in this apocalyptic scene, they can bring people a rare sense of tranquility. Albert suddenly regretted why he didn't buy more warships of the Xinjiang fleet before, but it took him a moment to recall that he had indeed brought up relevant content with Suran. But the Xinjiang fleet was no longer for sale, So he handed over there are only these 3 warships. The reason at that time seemed to be that His Excellency the Commander wanted to give priority to the development of the Xinjiang fleet itself, but despite this, the Xinjiang fleet was still defeated. Albert instinctively glanced at the sky outside the window, even though the Proxima Star-class warship had turned to the other side of the Earth at this moment just now. He also received the news that the Xinjiang fleet fled to the starry sky, and his heart was extremely heavy because of the attack on Proxima Centauri. They were the last few countries to receive the exact news. Albert's heart is extremely heavy. And the situation of the war is changing. In this war, countries and leaders are meaningless. Just like the cannon of Proxima Centauri, they may not care what country they are attacking, or whether they are attacking some important cities or large cities. They just hit a densely populated continent. That's all, Your Excellency. The aircraft carrier fleet closest to Washington has just been swallowed by a tsunami and a hurricane, and has completely lost contact, Your Excellency. The Hawaiian Islands have also been severely affected, and the neighboring islands that are not our mainland, South America, etc. have also been affected, Your Excellency. More than 20 disasters have been monitored so far, including some unnamed disasters. According to the analysis of our technical department, the destruction of the North American continent is a foregone conclusion. After the catastrophe, there will only be a group of islands left, Your Excellency. The Homeland Security Bureau of our country hopes to formulate rescue measures as soon as possible, rescue possible survivors as much as possible, and organize living armed forces, Your Excellency. This is a global announcement issued by China, and this is the Russian Federation. Albert listened silently as he walked towards the bridge. The big change has come. The Chinese people are right. From today on, the Earth can no longer have national boundaries, and the human leadership structure must also change. Kyushu Island. The ear-piercing sirens were resounding through the icy starry sky. At this moment, 9 minutes had passed since the 3rd battle group of the Xinjiang fleet was wiped out in space, and the remaining warships of the Xinjiang fleet jumped and fled. Night still hangs over the eastern hemisphere, but this night it's extra bright because there are 3 moons in the sky. 2 of them were a little farther away, and one looked down upon the land like a gigantic glowing face. The flashing Proxima fleet has become a new star searchlight, which is still free, but full of murderous opportunities. The destruction of the 3rd battle group and the escape of the Xinjiang fleet caused a brief silence in the temporary base of the Xinjiang fleet on Kyushu Island. But they were the first to know about the escape plan of the Xinjiang fleet, and this silence did not last for too long. At the critical moment, it was Zhang Jianguo who took over the overall situation. He is a veteran figure in the Xinjiang fleet. He may have been performing very well, but his status is self-evident. At this moment, his position is even more important. When Su Ran is leaving, of course, there is nothing wrong with the one-handed assignment before. Under the harsh sirens, there was no panic inside the Xinjiang fleet. Instead, people began to respond in an orderly manner, in the way they thought was correct. Zhang Jianguo actually didn't have the ability to deal with this kind of situation. He was helped by Zheng Shihoshino and a whole team of ground consultants. She is the author who secretly convinces. Even Zheng Shihoshino was quite surprised when she received this appointment. She never thought that Su Ran would choose to appoint her to take on such an important task at this time. However, she was born in the intelligence network and did have this ability, and she did not have enough reputation. She happened to be able to complement Zhang Jianguo, completely stabilize the situation at the Earth base of the Xinjiang fleet, and try to ensure the effectiveness and timeliness of every order issued at this moment. But Meng Yibei didn't receive any appointment. As if even Su Ran didn't know what to ask her to do, but the girl with silver-gray skin knew what to do. She is the swarm on the Earth. Tens of thousands of human beings are panicking and preparing, and countless pairs of fearful or vigilant or stern or desperate eyes are staring at the sky coldly, but the Proxima Centauri fleet has not launched the expected attack for a long time. After chasing the Xinjiang fleet and losing their target, they increased their altitude inch by inch. They finally remembered to rescue their trapped warships. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 3 Deep Space. In an unknown distance from the Earth, in the dark starry sky, it is not close to any stars or planets. It is dark and cold, empty and far away. Only a little bit of light in the distant sky can be seen in the distance. It seems to be some distant galaxy. Ice cold and dead silence are the background color of this universe, and if you observe carefully, you can notice that in this dark and dead starry space, occasionally there will be a little bit of light flashing. The Xinjiang fleet is docking here. The flickering light is the flash on the battleship leaked by some severely damaged battleships unable to maintain invisibility and silence. But at this moment, within the wreckage of the entire Xinjiang fleet, in the bridge of the flagship Yuncheng, The light was dim, and everyone was busy in their positions. Calculate the distance from the ground, detect the adjacent space, check the status of the fleet, deploy resources and medical personnel. Breaking away from the battle and throwing off the Proxima fleet does not mean that it is completely safe. The remaining 29 warships of the Xinjiang fleet have been damaged to varying degrees, and some are even close to the point of being lost and about to crash. There are a large number of injured people in every battleship, those who were injured by the shock and bruises during the strike, those injured by the strike that penetrated a battleship or the chain effect caused by the strike, those injured by improper manipulation and engineering, etc. The number of wounded is huge, even many command staff were injured. Therefore, the entire fleet fell silent after confirming that they had escaped the tracking of the Proxima Centauri fleet, and quickly dealt with the situation in the battleship. In each battleship, the medical staff and auxiliary staff have long been busy, and the voices in the communication channel have not stopped for a moment. But in the communication channel of the command layer, it has been silent for too long. It's been a long time since anyone spoke. Li Yilin raised her head slightly, and looked at the commander in front with some worry. After thoroughly listening to Qiao Xianqin's last voicemail, the commander slammed his seat heavily, and the loud sound echoed in the bridge. After that, he never spoke again. Even if there is only one back view, Li Yilin can feel the grief and heavy heart it seems to be able to crush people. And the same silent one was the Liang. Lin Yuandong had already left his seat, pushed away Li Yan, who wanted to say something to him, returned to his room in the Liang, closed the door, and said nothing more. He looked very angry, cranky, as if he had suddenly suffered from severe bipolar disorder. The boss is a complicated person, but also a very simple person. Li Yan issued orders instead of Lin Yuandong, cooperated with a mutual assistance and rescue in the fleet, and did not let anyone disturb his boss. In the medical room of Liang, Songboi finished his simple physical examination, sat in a corner and stared at a certain light spot at the far end of his vision through the porthole in a daze. That might be a planet, but this isn't Earth anymore, not even the solar system. The Zerg swarm and the Proxima star fleet have been tossing for 7 full months, recording a large number of routes. In order to avoid entanglement with the Proxima Centauri fleet, the Zerg swarm with certain navigation experience has been deliberately avoiding other star systems or possible where there are fleets in life. This time, the escape route of the Xinjiang fleet was to select a certain record point of the swarm and make a little correction, so as to prevent the Proxima fleet from finding them along the route of the swarm. Songboi has been in a daze for a long time. A young and beautiful female medical staff on the other side cast a worried look, because she clearly remembered that just before the 3rd and 4th battle group had just returned to the vicinity of the Earth to join the battle group. This record wrecked the ghost ship, the Miracle Ace, pilot of the fleet's 7,000-meter battleship, has not yet finished treatment, but at that time his eyes were bloodshot and he wanted to rush down when he heard that the Xinjiang fleet was in danger. It was silent, like a vegetative person sitting in the corner, with a dark starry sky reflected in his eyes, motionless. Among the last warships of the 5th battle group, Li Huxun had already left his position, and he came to the independent medical cabin of his frigate. Because the size of the frigate is relatively small, the medical room here was instead divided into small rooms, several of which have independent treatment function cabin, and at this moment, Tongmaya Okyo is here, lying in a medical cabin. She is still in a coma. Li Huxun came here, but didn't go in, just stood at the door, watching the fleet medical officer inside, who was busy with Tongmaya Okyo's injury. Just like that, watching silently in this frigate, there are even many seriously injured people who have not yet received good medical treatment. Too many people have died in this fleet today. Moreover, even after paying such a painful price, they still failed to win the final victory. They still had no choice but to escape from the starry sky and give the Earth to the Proxima Centauri fleet. Even if no one is doing anything, everyone's heart is so heavy, as if a boulder is pressed down, and everyone is speechless. The starry sky flickered coldly, and the fleet was silent, as if dead. Inside the bridge of the Yuncheng ship, Su Ran finally stood up from his position slowly and walked back. Seeing this, Li Yilin was a little surprised, and immediately got up. "Your Excellency, Commander, you are. Get me a black star fighter. Retrieve the nearest solid planet." Li Yilin frowned, not knowing what Su Ran was going to do, but she looked at the man's cold face, and realized that his current behavior should not be influenced by his own mood. But even so, she looked at Su Ran. Looking at Ran's back, he still couldn't help shouting, "Su Ran!" She didn't use the title "Your Excellency, Commander," but called Su Ran. The tone here was softer. Su Ran turned her head to look at her, and smiled. "The Earth is still waiting for us. No matter what we do, we have to hurry up." Li Yilin was stunned. However, Su-ran had already stepped forward, disappeared into the bridge, and headed for the back cabin of the Yunchang. Li Yilan came back to her senses after a while. The corners of her mouth were raised slightly. For some reason, the heavy heart that had been hanging all this time suddenly fell down and became no longer heavy. The adjutant sat back in his seat and started dispatching and retrieving, preparing for the next move of the Xinjiang fleet on the other side. Yuan Lichen, who was busy arranging the allocation of resources in the fleet, couldn't help but raise his head and glance this way. After a while, he shook his head and smiled slowly. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 4 The Vagabond. Su-ran left the bridge and went to the stop of the Black Star behind the Yunchang. Through the central passage on the way, he saw many fleet members passing by in a hurry. Some of them didn't even see that His Excellency the Commander passed by him in a hurry, but some recognized them, nodded slightly, and then walked quickly and unifiedly faintly. Su-ran seemed to hear someone sobbing softly in the corner. The battle was over. They got rid of the Proxima fleet, but none of them looked happy for their lives in this way. Su-ran came to the Black Star fighter. Li Yilan had already prepared for him, and she was worried about the possible unknown risks in the starry sky, so she specially arranged for Su-ran a battle group of small sparrow drones to defend him. What Su-ran had to do was actually very simple. Under the protection of the little sparrow, he left the huge Yuncheng out of the state of complete invisibility and silence, slid a certain distance into the deep space, and began to launch the aircraft carrier Type I. At the time of the battle, Su-ran originally wanted to use this most powerful warship under the 5th level manufacturing list as a backup to deal with the main force of the Proxima fleet that had not yet appeared at that time. The strength of the Starfleet was beyond Su-ran's imagination, and this behemoth would never be able to appear on the stage again. In that case, the Type I aircraft carrier could only become a living target for destruction. Until this moment, the huge battleship was thrown into the starry sky by Su-ran. It has a consistent streamlined fuselage, but with sharp edges and corners. The battleship is full of heavy artillery. The pitch-black battleship is more than 11 kilometers long. Once it is launched, it looks like a small meteorite floating in space. As soon as this battleship appeared, it immediately attracted the attention of countless people. Look. What's that? My God. Is that an enemy ship? No, that's our battleship, and our Black Star fighter flew in. Surprised voices resounded in the fleet. Some people pointed at this huge ship, surprised and excited, and Li Yilan looked at the suddenly appearing behemoth, and her eyes showed obvious surprise. Wow, she never thought that Su-ran's request to leave the battleship was actually to launch such a battleship, and, under such circumstances, Su-ran, there is actually a warship of this level in hand. Judging from the current situation, the Xinjiang fleet suffered serious battle damage, not only in terms of the crew, but also the battleship itself was extremely damaged, and the maintenance materials on their battleships were actually very limited when they were separated from the ground. It is very difficult to survive in the middle of the world, and this is what Li Yilan has been worrying about before. Until this moment, the Xinjiang fleet actually has such a warship. There seemed to be a little flame of hope flickering in Li Yilan's heart. And in the Cloud City, the Spore Life also stared at the behemoth in the distant sky through their human observation organs. He really still has his whole cards. Sure enough, how can a lost dog like us be too big? What level of civilization did he reach before? Is he really going to return to that backward planet to develop? It doesn't matter what level he's at now, he needs our strength. At the same moment, Su-ran is accessing the fleet channel through the aircraft carrier Type I. Please don't be surprised, don't panic. This is our battleship. This is the battleship of the Xinjiang fleet. I am the commander Su-ran. Now, I am now right in the middle of the bridge of the giant battleship that you have seen. Now, I will open the space dock, and ask the other battle groups except the first battle group to merge into this ship. Welcome to. Standing in the huge bridge under the protection of the main armor plate of the Type I aircraft carrier, Su-ran silently stared at the huge battleship under her feet, and said slowly, "Welcome to." Wanderer. Li Yilan checked Su-ran's information at the first time and began to guide the fleet to flow into the Wanderer in an orderly manner. The severely damaged ones will enter first, while the ones that are not too damaged will be temporarily merged into the first battle group that also has reduced personnel, as an escort fleet guarding the huge Nomad. If there were 5 complete battle groups of the Yuncheng, the Wanderer would not be able to accommodate them, but now, the Xinjiang fleet has suffered heavy losses and is scattered, and there is more than enough accommodation. Battleships are entering through the huge docking entrance opened on the side of the Nomad, and the docking is completed in the huge earthquake. Many soldiers and crew members stared at the endless Nomad. And finally there was another emotion besides sadness and pain on their faces. It was exciting and exhilarating like Lee Yilin. Many people felt that they had seen hope of returning home. The size of a battleship is sometimes not absolute, but in a civilization that is not that powerful, size means a lot. More weapons, more powerful weapons, and so on. In Liang, Lin Yuanduang had already unilaterally turned off the communication. He was in a bad mood, feeling as if a stone was pressing down on his heart, extremely heavy and desolate. He couldn't understand why this happened. Why did old Joe die like that? So many people, and that planet, home comrades. For the first time in half his life, he felt that these two words were so heavy that people would be unable to breathe. He's getting old, and he really needs to slow down, and at this moment, he felt the slight vibration of the battleship under him. Is this being attacked? Lin Yuanduang immediately stood up and looked out the window through the porthole. At first glance, he saw the unprecedentedly huge battleship, 11 kilometers in length and width. Lin Yuanduang's pupils contracted. And at that moment he almost really thought that they had encountered an unknown civilization attack again. However, in the next moment, he noticed that warships in the fleet were merging into this. Lin Yuanduang hastily turned on his communicator, tuned to the public channel in the fleet, and heard a noisy and excited voice. Vagabond. This is our warship. He finally understood. This is their battleship. This is a battleship of the Xinjiang fleet. Lin Yuanduang raised his head in a daze. He stood in front of the porthole of his small cabin, staring at the Wanderer that was getting closer and closer, and gently stretched out his hand, as if to touch the huge cold existence. Old Kiao, look, we have a 7,000-meter warship. We also have it. His voice is excited. At the same moment, in another corner of the battleship, Songboi was watching this scene silently. After a while, he stood up directly and walked out. The nurse who had been quietly watching him was surprised. What are you going to do? I'm going to report. The fleet needs me. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 5 Appointment. Target number 17 has entered the berth. The docking is complete, and the stabilizer is in good condition. Target number 18 detected. Starting the process of guiding the parking. A warship is sailing into the airport of the Nomad, and a large number of soldiers and fleets also disembarked from various warships one after another. In this way, the deployment of personnel and the rescue of the wounded have become more efficient. Moreover, there are also a large number of medical personnel on the Nomad that can accommodate up to 300 people. Center, where the best treatment can be provided for the currently overdose wounded in the fleet. At the same time, the commanders of warships at all levels are also heading to the bridge of the Nomad. Before that, Su Ran had mobilized a group of people to temporarily form the bridge team of the Nomad. However, the main control central intelligence unit of the Wanderer has a higher level of computing power and AI, and can perform most of the tasks required by humans. And Li Yilin, who is currently escorting the Wanderer in space with 10 warships from the first battle group, is also uploading the results of the preliminary star map scan to Su Ran. Here their current location seems to be an unmarked area on the Earth star map, about 30 light-years away from the Earth. Seeing this number, Su Ran was in a trance for a moment. It didn't take too long for them to jump back and forth, just a few hours. However, did they jump so far? Su Ran shook her head. His heart is actually quite heavy. The Earth is gone. Qiao Xiangjun died in battle, and the Xinjiang fleet suffered heavy losses. Not only is he sad and angry, but he even has a little doubt. Has his arrival really changed anything? However, Su Ran is no longer a rookie in the last days. He is now the commander of the Xinjiang fleet. There are tens of thousands of people in this wandering fleet waiting for him to issue orders. He cannot fall into his negative emotions. Su Ran already had a preliminary plan in mind, to find a planet, develop in an all-round way, upgrade, level May 6 not be enough, then level 7, level 8. He must continue his strength in the shortest possible time and return to the Earth. Kill back home. Let the Proxima fleet pay the price. This sentence is not just a joke. He wants the Proxima Centauri to be exterminated, of course, whether that is a person or not. Su Ran took a deep breath and swiped his arms in the air, and the star map opened in front of him. The short-term observation data is very vague, and the nearest star system is nearly a light-year away from their current position, which means that the latest information on the star map formed by the temporary summary data in his hand also comes from a year ago. There are about 9 surrounding planets detected so far, and one of the 3 star system is directly excluded by Su Ran, while the other 2 are very far away, and the data are not detailed and vague. So they are also directly excluded by Su Ran. He didn't plan to take the fleet to jump again. Repeated jumps are still very dangerous for a fleet that has never experienced the starry sky, because it is really possible to lose its way in the starry sky and not find where the Earth is, and there is no need for that. Su-Ran's plan is not to go on an interstellar expedition to find alien civilizations. All he needs is a planet with a lot of resources. The Earth has not yet been recovered, and Yifeng has not reached the time to conquer other planets. Su-Ran sifted and sifted, and in the end the only one that was considered reliable was the nearest one. The distance is 1 light year. The information is still timely, and the observation effect is not bad. It seems to be a star system similar to the solar system. This is undoubtedly the best place for the current fleet, judging from the current information. This is a young star, which has captured 5 stars of different sizes, and there is a large meteorite belt in the outer ring of this star system, enveloping the entire star system, and there is also a huge shield on the outskirts of this star system, which is a hot layer formed by the opposition of the solar wind and the outer dust, and its temperature can reach more than 5,000 degrees, but this will not have any impact on the fleet. Su-Ran plans to jump in directly according to the positioning. There is a large-scale solid planet in the 4th orbit of this star system, but the data is not very clear or clear. Su-Ran felt that this planet was exactly what the current fleet needed. However, with the current capabilities of the fleet, it may take some time to mine planets on a large scale. Su-Ran already had a preliminary plan in mind, but before that, he planned to hold a fleet-wide meeting to discuss the specific implementation rules. Commanders at all levels quickly gathered here, waiting in the conference room behind the bridge of the Wanderer. Su-Ran was the last one to come to the scene, glanced slightly, and noticed that almost all the captains and commanders were present, except Yuan Lichen, Li Yilin and others who were still in charge of the first combat group, who were still in charge of the escort mission. Lin and Yuandong and who sat at Su-Ran's left and right hands. There were several vacancies around them, but no one was seated. The captains of other frigates and Apocalypse class warships were all seated further back, as if every time they attended a meeting before, the front seats belonged to those battle group commanders. Even though it is now impossible for them to come back and sit in their own seats, nothing has changed. The atmosphere was very dull. Before Su-Ran arrived, almost no one in the meeting room spoke, and they all lowered their heads slightly. The Xinjiang fleet was defeated in an unprecedented battle, and even temporarily abandoned the Earth, and a large number of battle losses were not experienced by the Xinjiang fleet before the appearance of the Wanderer may have inspired and hoped the ordinary sailors and team officers at the bottom, but now those who can sit here are the pillars of the fleet. It is strong enough for human beings, but it is still not enough for the Proxima Centauri fleet. Far from enough. It's like the name the commander gave it, homeless. Its appearance cannot completely change the situation. Everyone here understands this. Su-Ran took a glance and took a full view of the bad emotions brewing in everyone's eyes, but he didn't say anything, and he didn't plan to give an exciting speech at this time, and he didn't prepare a manuscript. He just scanned it silently with a glance. He began to tell his plan. The target is the nearest star system, and there is almost no objection from everyone. At this time, no one has the intention to raise any objections. The atmosphere of the meeting is quite dead. Su Yaoang led the order to investigate the situation of this star system first. To find the way for the Xinjiang fleet, she will lead a frigate and 2 Enlightenment-class warships to the target system. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 6 Commitment. Su Yaoang stared at the distant starry sky. Her expedition was sailing from the Wanderer, with 2 Enlightenment-class warships following her frigates. This is the first time Su Yaoang has performed a mission alone as a commander since joining the Xinjiang fleet, but she's not nervous. Back in Aodong City, her task was to send a steady stream of local survivors to the new capital in a state similar to suspended overseas. But now, for Su Yaoang, it's just a different place. However, Su Yaoang knew that this time her task was more difficult and more important. No one knows what they will encounter in that star system, or if they will not encounter anything. 3 battleships disappeared into space, and in the rear, the battleship Yuncheng of the first battle group has also emerged into the Wanderer. The 2 frigates and 4 Enlightenment-class battleships flew far away, each about 10,000 kilometers away from the Nomad. For escort, Li Yilin and Yuan Lichen entered the bridge one after another. Su-Ran handed over the task of coordinating the fleet to Li Yilin and Yuan Lichen. One of them was responsible for the task distribution of the fleet, and the other was responsible for the deployment of personnel and resources within the fleet. The division of labor was just right, and with the assistance of the brain, they could handle this properly. A non-war internal situation in the fleet. But Su-Ran left the bridge instead. Li Yilin opened her mouth, as if she wanted to say something, but she didn't say anything after all. but watched the commander walk out of the bridge. Yuan Lichen shook his head slightly at her. Su Ran went to the current medical center of the Wanderer. Although Su Yaoyang and the others had set off, it would take a long time to explore whether a star system 1 light-year away was a threat in the starry sky. Everything seems to be long, and everything is fast, long and distant, but for many people in the Xinjiang fleet who have just left the tight battle, they have not yet eased from the previous rhythm. Su Ran went straight to the medical center, and the 300 medical cabins here were already full load. A large number of medical personnel and logistics personnel dispatched from various warships were busy, but there was some confusion and disorder after a defeat. The emotions of the injured are often quite easy to lose control, and they will affect those around them. Su Ran's arrival undoubtedly attracted almost everyone's attention. People turned their heads one after another, staring at the commander who came suddenly. Su Ran didn't say much, he just walked through it, and occasionally asked the medical staff around him about the situation of individual injured people, whether the medical staff or the wounded. They all raised their eyes to look at the commander. It gradually quieted down here at this time. Su Ran slowly stood still, and said in a voice that was not loud enough for everyone to hear, "I am Su Ran. On behalf of the officers and soldiers of the entire fleet, I thank you for your efforts. Please believe that you are all of the fleet, the mainstay of the fleet. No matter how serious the injury is, the fleet will treat you. We will never give up on anyone, and with the fleet's current medical capabilities and biotechnology, everyone's injuries can be completely cured. Even if they are permanently disabled, they can also be restored because the fleet still needs you, and I still need you, so please be patient. This is my promise." Su Ran, commander of the Xinjiang fleet. The medical center was quiet. People looked at me and I looked at you, and the most irritable wounded also fell silent. Those who can be screened into the Xinjiang fleet, and even able to take on jobs on the fleet, are experienced people. Fear and serious injuries will make their spirits tend to collapse, but as long as they are guided a little, they can be pulled away back on track, and this was the purpose of Su Ran's coming here. He knew that the Nomad Medical Center could not accommodate all the wounded. You must know that there were more than 200 survivors of the 5th Battle Group rescued by the frigate Li Huxun alone. Therefore, at this moment, there are still many wounded receiving treatment on other warships, and the situation is not so optimistic. But Su Ran had to stabilize the situation first. Panic cannot break out, but Su Ran has been here before, so he doesn't need to go to other places. The news will spread little by little, and achieve the effect he wants to see. Needless to say, Yuan Lichen will definitely use this to guide him. Su Ran knows that the Xinjiang fleet is defeated, but he cannot collapse. No matter what his real thoughts are at this moment, he is the banner in this fleet. If he collapses, the entire Xinjiang fleet will be destroyed, will collapse, so he has to stand up and do a little guidance, and that little bit of guidance is enough. Su Ran walked out of the medical center. Many people looked at his back and remained silent. Zhang Xian ran over from behind and followed Su Ran all the way. She didn't speak until both of them had left. "Your Excellency, our situation is not that optimistic. Although our warships carry a large number of the medical supplies, medicines and biological reagents, but that is also limited. The total number of wounded is almost the number of the battle group, plus several of our warships have been destroyed and a large amount of medical supplies have been lost. We are afraid." Having said this, Zhang Xian couldn't continue, but the meaning behind the words is already very clear. With the medical supplies currently owned by the Xinjiang fleet, they cannot save everyone. However, what surprised Zhang Xian was that Su Ran didn't show any surprise, and just said lightly, "I know." Of course, Su Ran knew that there was not enough medical supplies, and the medical supplies inside the battleship were not prepared according to the possibility of serious injuries to all personnel, because if there were serious injuries to all personnel, the battleship would basically be destroyed, and there would be more. What is the use of medical supplies? But Su Ran had to make a promise first. To stop the bigger panic before it broke out, he looked at Zhang Xian and said, "How many people in the biomedical department of your fleet know about the shortage of medical supplies?" "Counting me, there are 3 people." Zhang Xian answered silently. Su Ran nodded. "Block the news first. I will solve the problem of medical supplies." Zhang Xian opened his mouth. In fact, he wanted to ask them how could medical supplies be conjured up out of thin air in their lonely space, but she didn't ask this question in the end. She chose to trust her commander, nodded, and walked back. Su Ran silently looked at the cold starry sky beyond the porthole. "I still have some resources in my hands, but those resources can't be spent on medical treatment." Su Yaoyang, hurry up, the genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 7 The Lone Boat. Although she has joined the fleet for nearly 2 months, received rigorous training and even experienced several jumps just now. When Su Yaoyang brought her 3 exploration spacecraft to the calibrated star system, she looked at her from a distance. Su Yaoyang still felt a little unreal when he realized that he had crossed a space distance of nearly 1 light-year in this short period of time on the huge gas giant planet, but she quickly adjusted her mentality. The Xinjiang fleet needs her information. Su Yaoyang has run the Aodong survivor base by herself and has undergone captain training. Even if she does not have accurate data, she can still judge that although the Xinjiang fleet escaped from the pursuit of the Proxima fleet, its own condition is bad. Extremely. If she can't make rapid progress here, the Xinjiang fleet is likely to face a choice: abandon some warships and wounded battleships can be jettisoned. It is no secret that Your Excellency, Commander, has unique shipbuilding methods in the Xinjiang fleet, but people can no longer be lost. The Xinjiang fleet hangs alone in the sea, and now one more death means one less. Perhaps time can be used to reproduce, and the population will naturally increase from generation to generation. But the Earth is still under the control of the Proxima Centauri fleet. Even Su Yaoyang hopes to return to the Earth as soon as possible, but the Xinjiang fleet can't really plunge into the star system. It is necessary to be cautious. If there is nothing in the star system, it is fine. If there is really a huge irresistible risk, then it is not the loss of some warships and the wounded. The entire Xinjiang fleet may be planted here. Su Yaoyang's eyes darkened slightly. The size of this star system is almost the same as that of the solar system, but the young star only captured 5 planets. The outer ring of the star system is a large area of meteorite belts. It seems that countless stars have hit these areas, like fragile rocks disintegrate, and under the control of gravity's big hand, they become a huge meteorite belt disk around the planet. Su Yaoyang's 3 warships jumped out of the position and calibration slightly, but they were still in the center of the 5th orbit gas giant planet and meteorite belt in the star system, and luckily none of them hit the 5th orbit gas giant planet. According to preliminary detections, the diameter of this giant planet is at least about 200,000 kilometers, which means that its volume is nearly twice that of Saturn, and it is even larger than Jupiter, the largest in the solar system if their jump exit deviates too close to it. Su Yaoyang's frigate is fine, and the 2 Enlightenment-class battleships following her are likely to be unstoppably pulled towards it by gravity that would be troublesome. Su Yaoyang took a slight breath. The interstellar travel was a little bit different from her imagination. It is not so easy to fly a spaceship in the strange and colorful star sea. Su Yaoyang issued an order to leave an Enlightenment-class battleship in this area, and let it be responsible for detecting the solid satellites around this giant planet. That Su Yaoyang temporarily named the 5th star and the meteorite ring behind them, and Su Yaoyang continued to move forward. Her first target was the planet in the 4th orbit of this star system in the preliminary information detection of the fleet before. This seems to be a rocky planet. The location is also very good. There may be water or even life, and it is huge, and the scarred Xinjiang fleet can completely take it as its own. It took nearly an hour to go from the orbit of the 5th star to the orbit of the 4th planet in this star system, and it took about half an hour to find the planet. The orbit of the planet in the 4th orbit, it even overlaps with the orbit of the 5th star, but the 2 planets will not meet each other, but in a certain huge revolution period, the planet on the 4th orbit will travel to the Sun in this star system farther than the 5th star, further afield and approaching the 4th planet. Su Yaoyang was disappointed. Seen from space, it is extremely quiet. It is faint blue, as if an ocean is bred on it, and it even has a dim star ring. But judging from the feedback information, this is a nice giant star. Its atmosphere is mainly composed of hydrogen, helium, and methane. There may be ice or rocks inside, but its environment is destined to be unfavorable for the fleet to dock and mine resources. The starry sky so vast, it is impossible for the Xinjiang fleet to ask for trouble to mine a treacherous ice giant from this. It can be determined that the inferences made by the information collected by the Xinjiang fleet 1 light-year away were wrong. Damn. Su Yaoyang cursed slightly in her heart. She can no longer leave the 2nd Awakener-class battleship here, and can only order the Awakener-class warship left in front of the 5th star to hurry up after completing the exploration mission of the meteorite belt and the 5th star. Come to this 4th planet. The vastness of the interstellar space. Even if you have a spaceship with enough maneuverability and speed, it doesn't mean that you can figure out what's inside as quickly as visiting an amusement park. Su Yaoyang only has 3 warships and some exploration equipment, and she can't walk around in the garden. She can only consider from 2 aspects. The first is whether the planet's resources are conducive to exploitation. The second is whether there is a threat on the planet through the holographic simulation screen projected on the battleship. Su Yaoyang squinted his eyes and looked at the sun in the distance. It even looked no different from the Earth. But it was another galaxy. Su Yaoyang changed his strategy. She headed for the third planet in the star system, and ordered the second Enlightenment-class battleship to go straight to the inner ring of the star system, and began to explore from the planet closest to the star. The Awakener-class warship accelerated rapidly and disappeared into the far end of space, while Su Yaoyang's frigate had just determined the position of the planet on the third orbit of the star system, and the huge frigate slowly turned and circled in another direction. That planet is diametrically opposed to the ice giant. Since Su Yaoyang and the others entered this star system, they have been collecting data and analyzing the star system. Judging from the conclusions drawn from the current data, it is very likely that the third star of this star system is a rocky planet. The third orbit is on the same orbit as the Earth in the solar system. Thinking of this level, Su Yaoyang has more confidence and expectations in his heart. Moreover, judging from the current situation, they have broken into the star system for a long time but have not received any civilization signal or encountered any civilization spacecraft. It seems that there are no civilizations and creatures in this star system. The 3 exploration ships from the Xinjiang fleet were completely separated, like 3 lonely boats on the sea, sailing to different continents. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8: Global Panic. The high winds on the ground are weakening. The second night after the Great War is covering this land. Li Jianbang left the well-defended underground fortification in a slightly thin coat, and came outside. There is a chill atmosphere in the city of Kyoto. Only rumbling chariots and soldiers slowly pass by in the military area. Kyoto is being rearmed, and millions of ordinary survivors, technicians and experts from all walks of life within the city of Kyoto have been evacuated to various places, because according to the current situation, once the Proxima Centauri fleet starts a full-scale invasion and war, Kyoto, which is the center of the planetary defense network, must be the first to be destroyed. Moreover, Kyoto itself on the northeast plain, which is close to the area where the cowards are active, will also be one of the targets. However, knowing this, Li Jianbang has no intention of transferring the main control center of the circumplanetary defense system, because he knows very well that it is meaningless to remove it, and the Proxima Centauri fleet will crush the entire circumplanetary defense system among them. The only fortunate thing is that the Proxima Centauri fleet seems to have abandoned its original plan to completely destroy the Earth from the very beginning. When the 2 Proxima Centauri warships jumped into the outer space of the Earth and bombarded the planet one after the other, their purpose was actually very clear: to directly scorch the Earth from space and even destroy the planet. However, as the situation changed, it may be because of cowards, or it may be the existence of cowards peeping on the moon, or it may be because of the last information of the Xinjiang fleet. So far, the Proxima Centauri fleet has not launched any destructive strikes on the ground. And not only that, when Li Jianbang looked up at the sky at this moment, the 3 full moons in the sky looked very far away. One of the 2 Proxima Centauri warships was still frozen near the moon in a completely unknown way, while the other one has withdrawn from a farther distance. Judging from the current situation, it is trying to rescue the trapped warship. Obviously, for the Proxima Centauri fleet, in terms of priority, the Xinjiang fleet, which is capable of destroying human beings on Earth, is higher than rescuing its own warships. And the priority of rescuing its own warships is obviously above the overall capture of the Earth. This buys precious time for the human nations and survivor forces on the ground to respond effectively. Countries have the opportunity to deploy defenses, hoard supplies, and evacuate people. Even the land-sinking North American countries and affected neighboring countries have the opportunity to breathe a sigh of relief. But the spread of panic is hard to contain. The huge Star-class battleship can be seen looking up. The Xinjiang fleet is gone, and North America lands sinking. This series of news is enough to make any weak-minded person completely despair and then collapse. The better ones are also terrified all day long, fighting for a little material. Only a few people can stay sane. This kind of panic cannot be curbed by any means, because Proxima Centauri is there, like a visible sword of Damocles, heralding the imminent death of people. I am afraid that the panic can only be relieved at the moment when the sword of Damocles really falls. Disaster and survival will screen out those who cannot control their emotions, and the remaining people will overcome panic and become survivors, or even survivors in various senses, and this road will be forged with blood. Li Jianbang suddenly realized that what he was thinking was a bit of a middle school, so he smiled and shook his head. He looked at Mr. Deputy Prime Minister beside him. The gentleman was looking at Li Jianbing nervously. This Mr. Number 1 official did not close his eyes when dealing with various incidents. In addition to the first round of blows before, his body looked so weak, but his spirit was excellent, as if the huge threat of the Proxima Star Fleet did not exist at all. Mr. First Officer, notify Three Gorges. I will keep that insurance on standby at all times. This, Li Jianbing squinted his eyes and smiled. Su Ran is a cautious person, and his caution can help us a lot. This backup will be the main force in the hand-to-hand battle between us and the Proxima Fleet on Earth. Mr. Vice Premier nodded, feeling a little emotional in his heart at this moment. Regardless of defeat or victory, the Xinjiang Fleet seems to always be the indispensable backbone of the Earth, and it will never be absent in the war. Even though the main fleet of the Xinjiang Fleet has fled into the unknown depths of the starry sky at this moment, the Xinjiang Fleet and everything that the commander left behind on the Earth are still contributing to mankind. For example, the insurance in the Three Gorges. For example, the Ring planetary defense system is still in operation. For example, Kyushu Island Xinjiang headquarters, Kyushu Island, Xinjiang headquarters. There have been 73 letters of appeal and inquiry. Large and small countries and survivor forces all want our response. Zhang Jianguo was sitting in the general headquarters of the temporary headquarters of the Xinjiang Fleet on Kyushu Island, listening to the report silently. As a result, the tablet computer was handed over by the other party. His eyes drooped slightly, and he said, I see. I will deal with it, and I will respond. These emails from various countries and survivor forces are mostly three kinds of content: asking for help, scolding the Xinjiang Fleet, and being at a loss. And the rain of news is still coming. The U.S. Department of Defense hopes to have a place to stay on Dongying Island to protect the large number of North American survivors who died. No. Zhang Jianguo shook his head slowly, thinking that the big man in the American Empire lost his sense of control in a hurry. Tell Albert that Dongying Island must be the first target of Proxima Centauri's all-out attack on mankind. If he doesn't want himself, the survivors of the country will follow Dongying Island to sink once more, and they can come. Meng Yibei, queen of the swarm, has just confirmed that she has entered the underground facility. She seems to want to summon the swarm. Let her go. Your Excellency, the commander trusts her, so we can trust her. On the other hand, Zheng Shihoshino and the advisory team are also busy. Unlike Zhang Jianguo's handling and replying to international issues, their task is to fully evacuate and resettle the survivors on Kyushu Island and the members and families of the Xinjiang Fleet. Hoshino Junka was born in the intelligence organization. Her plan is to break it up into pieces, so that the power of the Xinjiang Fleet on the Earth will completely disappear from the vision of Proxima Centauri. This will undoubtedly maximize the chances in a round of hand-to-hand combat and ensure survival rate. But the only problem right now is, the Xinjiang Fleet fled to the starry sky, and almost all the last batch of transport ships were sent to space by Zhang Jianguo. There were no more than 10 manned aircraft on the ground, and most of them were small fighters, with a total carrying capacity of only more than 200 people, and Kyushu Island now has nearly 300,000 people, and the ground members and family members of the Xinjiang Fleet headquarters alone have more than 20,000 people. In such a situation, they can't even withdraw the core department of the Xinjiang Fleet, and it is impossible for other countries to come to help if they are too busy to take care of themselves. Now Zheng Shihoshino and the entire advisory group are almost like ants on the hot pot. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 9: The Silent Heart. This is a planet in the Ice Age. According to preliminary external measurements, the mass of this rocky planet in the third orbit of the star system is about 3.8 times that of the Earth, and it has 2 satellites of different sizes. When confirming all this, some excitement flashed through Su Yaoang's heart. This means they have found their purpose. Then came the landing exploration. The huge frigate sank into the atmosphere, and the first thing I saw was a vast expanse of whiteness. The surface temperature of this planet was -30 degrees, and it was impossible to determine which stage of the Ice Age it was in. Even if this is a barren glacial planet, this temperature will not pose a problem for the Xinjiang Fleet capable of interstellar navigation. The atmospheric pressure of this planet is about 1.5 times that of the Earth, but its gravity is much weaker, only about 4/5 of that of the Earth. That is to say, on this planet, you can really jump half a foot high. The most important thing is that the oxygen content has reached 69%. According to the current preliminary detection, except for an unknown air component, Other indicators are within the range that the fragile human body can bear. These are absolutely good news, but Su Yaoyang soon realized that the possibility of life being born in such an environment is extremely high. Although judging from the various conditions of this planet and the star system, it is obvious that there is no high-level civilization here, or even a civilization that has reached the level of Earth civilization before the end of the world, but this does not mean that there will be no living things here as long as the conditions are right. The long years are enough to make the probability of life birth become 100%, even if the current state of this planet seems to be an ice age that is not conducive to the survival of living things. But Su Yaoyang, who has seen all kinds of strange creatures, knows that those conditions that cannot survive are often imposed by humans. Su Yaoyang took a deep breath, and the frigate slowly sank to altitude. In this endless world of white glaciers, the frigate was like a small black spot, flickering slightly, and looked lonely in the empty and lifeless world. Immediately afterwards, Su Yaoyang immediately sent out all the detectors on her frigate, centered on her frigate, and radiated in all directions, exploring the surface of this planet as comprehensively as possible. But Su Yaoyang's own frigate is still descending in this endless empty world. As the altitude decreases, the semi-arc white horizon disappears, and the circular planet becomes flat and open in the field of vision. There is not even a trace of other traces on the ice layer that spreads along the ground. Like a natural work of art, there are no visible buildings or creatures on the ground, but everything looks so desolate, but it seems to be full of infinite possibilities. Wang Han, who hadn't spoken much, couldn't help sighing. This is infinite possibility. The universe is wild. There are so many planets, and there are no traces of any living beings ever setting foot. If human beings can enter the era of space immigration, then it is estimated that everyone's back garden can be as big as a football field. Right, many people feel this way compared to such a planet. Earth is just too crowded. Some people couldn't help but echoed, yes. Maybe you can buy a house like this for $1 then. People don't have to go out. Family gatherings rely on virtual projection technology, and shopping relies on robots. There was a small upsurge of discussion on the bridge, and the vast and bright world lifted the spirits of many people. Almost forgetting the previous decline, Su Yaoyang just smiled lightly at this, and stared at the white world under his feet. She's going to use her frigate to cut through the ice to see what's down here. This is the suggestion given by the frigate's AI brain. In this harsh environment, creatures are likely to exist under the ice. Unknown creatures, even uncivilized creatures, may pose a threat to humans. It is Su Yaoyang's task to eliminate the threat, so instead of joining the discussion, she was going to hurry up, of course. At the same time, her email was also sent out immediately, and sent to the Wanderer located 1 light-year away from the star system through the quantum communicator. Same moment on the Wanderer, Su Yaoyang's good news was transmitted almost immediately, and Yuan Licheng chose to announce the news immediately. A cold environment is not a problem. A resource-rich rocky planet is the hope that is the rising hope. This good news made many people feel excited, wishing to rush to that planet immediately. At this time, Su Ran was in his own room seeing this news. Su Ran also let out a long breath. Compared with confirming the existence of rocky planets, what he cares more about is that Su Yaoyang mentioned in the feedback information that there is no danger for the time being and no traces of other advanced civilizations have been found. The presence or absence of rocky planets is only of general importance to Su Ran. The Xinjing fleet is the Wanderer, which is itself a space platform. The ecosystem inside the Wanderer can fully maintain the life of the entire fleet. Gas giants can also be targets for resource extraction. The inferior Enlightenment-class battleships may not be able to travel through the harsh gas giant planets, but there is no problem with the battleships of the Cloud City and the Wanderer. They can wander in the gas giant planets like taking a bath, like a huge monster leviathan cruising among the giant planets. What matters is whether civilization exists. Su Ran thought for a while, and sent a message to Li Yilin on the bridge to make the Wanderer move and start moving towards the star system. The distance of 1 light-year, of course, cannot be relied on to fly. Su Ran can't afford to delay such time. In the end, we still have to rely on the leap, but the Xinjing fleet in action will undoubtedly help people to realize the arrival of hope. Immediately afterwards, Su Ran invested most of his spare resource points in the manufacture of medical supplies to ensure the needs of the wounded in the fleet. And just now, Su Ran received the latest news from the frigate Li Huxun that Captain Tong Myaoku's vital signs had stabilized and he was completely out of danger. After doing this, Su Ran let out a long breath. As if she felt a moment of relaxation in her heart, his eyes turned to the boundless starry sky outside the porthole. The close-at-hand star system is only a slightly brighter light year to the eyes, and the Earth and the solar system are in the countless light spots behind this light year Earth home. Old Joe, looking at this seemingly bottomless dark starry sky, Suran was in a trance for a moment. Has he really changed anything, or pushed the Earth into a deeper abyss? The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 10, Unknown Planet. Accompanied by a slight tremor, Su Yaoyang's frigate slowly landed on this unknown planet. The landing of the huge warship shook up the snow that was nearly a kilometer around, and it flew melodiously in space. Crystal clear ice crystals are flying in midair, and the dispatched probes are still searching on this barren planet. According to the program, they will spend nearly 3 days orbiting the planet for 1 week and capture the entire picture of the planet. Fully give back to the Xinjiang fleet. In the process of exploring this star system, Su Yaoyang may only explore in general directions, but this rocky planet is likely to be a stop for the Xinjiang fleet in the future, even if the Wanderer will not actually land on this planet. On top of that, she must also complete the initial exploration perfectly. That was her duty as captain and member of the fleet, and according to the detection of the frigate, there seems to be a huge hole under the ice layer just below their current landing point. It's like a water bubble instantly freezes and freezes out of thin air. Its outer layer is completely crystallized, but the inner part forms a cavity-like structure because of its original shape. Of course, this large-scale ice formation cannot be described as a bubble. It is more like a cave under the ice. This hole is astonishingly large. Judging from the results of preliminary exploration so far, it can be seen that there is such a hollow structure under the hundreds of thousands of square meters of ice they landed on. This means that the area of the cave under the ice is at least hundreds of thousands of square meters, and there seems to be more than one such subglacial cave like a hole in the earth. Su Yaoyang didn't know why he suddenly thought of this as a member of the command of the Xinjiang fleet. Of course, she has also read about the Hollow Project. The previous capture of the experimental brood of the Swarm 03 gave her a more intuitive understanding of all this cognition, and now, she wanted to figure out what was down there, which couldn't be obtained from the surface information recorded by the probes flying around the planet. The frigate came to a stop. Su Yaoyang looked down. She is the captain. Of course, it is impossible to leave the bridge to do exploration missions in person. They are warships, not scientific research ships. The mission was carried out by Zhang Xiaoyun, the deputy captain of a Marine Corps honor frigate, who was also an old man beside Su Yaoyang. They had fought side by side when they were in Aodong City before, and their character and ability were trustworthy. Careful people at this time. The rear door of the frigate was slowly opened. Zhang Xiaoyun is leading the team out. There was a howling gust of wind. The wind is mixed with crystalline snow. The breath of a strange planet seemed to rush towards him. Then Zhang Xiaoyun realized that he was wearing a full set of space combat suit produced by the Xinjiang fleet. It was tight-fitting and completely airtight. It is also a nearly 100% real external environment simulated inside his helmet through the 6 sensors and 3 cameras on this spacesuit. So, in fact, his eyes didn't really see snow and ice. The strong wind has also been isolated by protective clothing. This is a novel experience. This kind of space combat suit is not much equipped in the fleet, because in theory, it is almost impossible to use it in a battle with the Proxima fleet. Therefore, Zhang Xiaoyun only occasionally used it in training before, but this is the first time he has used it in practice. Used in the situation. There are 30 spacesuits on the frigate. Zhang Xiaoyun brought out 12 people including himself in this operation, that is, 12 black space combat suits, and behind them is a land killer. The last 6 fighters were carrying a heavy laser cutting equipment, that is the module removed from a laser cannon on the frigate, ready to be used to quickly penetrate a tunnel through the ice. One of his team members joked in Zundeo, "Maybe we are the first human beings to set foot on an extrasolar planet." That's right. Zhang Xiaoyun responded, and was the first to step off the frigate. The difference in gravity made him a little uncomfortable, but as a member of the Xinjiang fleet, the weightless environment and abnormal gravity environment are training subjects, and he will soon be able to adapt. Also, the boot-mounted balancers on his combat suit help him acclimatize extremely quickly. Then he heard a loud bang. That was the heavy land killer crashing to the ground. This huge monster is directly controlled by the bridge at this moment. It does not explore but is responsible for vigilance and safety. The 6th-rotation heavy artillery began to warm up when it landed. No matter what it encountered, as long as it was judged to be dangerous, this terrifying killing machine would execute the shooting order under the control of the bridge crew. For some reason, looking at this robot, Zhang Xiaoyun somehow felt relieved at this time. He finally understood why the interstellar expedition team in the movie always likes to carry some robots or synthetic humans. It is reasonable and simple. These non-human existences are not only far more stable than humans, but also make humans more stable in this situation. Robots are always supposed to be tough and fearless, and because they are the first batch of exploration teams, some special robots and exploration robots specially transferred by Suran on the frigate have not been put into use yet, and they plan to use these more sophisticated things after initial progress. The 12-member team began to advance slowly. The tactical drone rose with a hum. The feeling of walking on a brand new planet is unsettling. The surface temperature is now 30 degrees Celsius. Fragmented ice crystals fluttered along with a hunting wind, and looking into the distance, at the end of the wide plain, one could occasionally see huge peaks connecting the sky and the earth. That is the mountains of this planet, the average height of which has surpassed Everest, standing like a giant in the distance of the white storm, just like the terrifying giant walking through the fog in the story of Cthulhu. Especially in this quiet world, it seems infiltrating Zhang Xiaoyun's team advanced about 200 meters and then began to put down the equipment. 2 tactical drones circled them, and the huge land killer stepped back to get out of the way. A few soldiers came to the front with a temporary modified laser shield machine and began to set it up. This laser shield machine has long and thick insulation lines behind it, which are connected to the frigate, and the frigate supplies it with far and continuous energy. Although the word rudimentary was used when describing it, as an important module of the warship laser cannon, its power is not rudimentary at all. Amidst the scalp-numbing buzzing, it began to condense its light, sending out continuous laser rays to the ice layer below. Chapter 11: Glacier Planet. Why is it operating so loudly? It won't explode, right? On the ice field of a dead unknown planet, a soldier made a joke that was not funny at all. Zhang Xiaoyun looked up and looked at him. Do you want more refined things after modification? It is a long process to pierce the ice layer. On this strange planet, the detection conditions of the frigate are also very limited. At present, it can only be confirmed that the ice layer is at least hundreds of meters thick, which means that opening a passage requires a long time. However, their digging angles, positions and output power of laser rays have been strictly calculated. It is like cutting a hole, and the whole ice layer will collapse. This situation will not happen for Zhang Xiaoyun's team. The next thing to do is a long wait. Most of the waiting time is silent. Dead silence quietly spread in the team and the frigate behind. News gathered like raindrops. Exploring underground cavities is only one of the current goals. Human beings have spent hundreds of years exploring, and until now they have not really understood the Earth, let alone such a behemoth whose scale is above the Earth. The terrain of this planet is a bit weird. The huge mountain peaks seem to rise from the ground. There is no continuous structure like huge ice cones piercing the ice surface. Standing on the planet, the smallest mountain peak at present the height is more than 1,000 meters, and the highest peak can reach 10,000 meters, but its top is no longer a rock structure but a complete ice layer, really like a huge ice cone towering into space. In addition, what is more eye-catching on this planet is the wavy ground structure. When overlooking from a high place, it is not so obvious because the wave span is huge and covered with ice crystals and snow, but from the data point of view, here the landform is a complete wavy structure, layer by layer, and the giant mountain is a sharp spear that penetrates the huge waves. Moreover, this planet is more completely frozen than imagined, and the large glacier is just the tip of its iceberg. This may be related to its rotation time. Its day is as long as 276 hours, which is equivalent to more than 11 days. This means that every day and night of this planet will be very long. The impact of temperature on the environment is self-evident. And now they are in the daytime of this planet, and they don't know if they are lucky. However, so far, no life has been found after landing. They collected ground samples, and no microorganisms have been found so far. No microbes, and no other unnatural traces. The composition of the air is also being tested, and the composition of the rock. I am afraid that the results will depend on the Earth drilling team. The bridge was busy when setting sail before. Su Ran specially equipped Su Yaoang with the strongest team of experts that can be gathered in the current fleet, including astronomy, geography, biology, atmosphere, physics, chemistry and other fields, in order to deal with such a situation. But now, they are all working hard to explore this planet from their own fields. The Xinjiang fleet is a fugitive fleet. Most of these experts are not big names in the industry. They are just some special talents in each warship. They need the help of computers and brains to complete related tasks. That slows down exploration, but that's a good thing. There won't be any mad scientists overzealous about unknown planets. Everyone knows what they are doing. In fact, in this case, it is undoubtedly the best choice to let the spore life of the cosmic boss come over. But Su Ran didn't allow a spore life to board the 3 exploration spacecraft for the simple reason that he wanted to keep the spore life within his sight. Although from a certain point of view, Su Ran has believed that the spore life left on the Earth is unswervingly on his side, but this does not mean that Su Ran can completely and unconditionally trust them. Just because everyone is in the same group doesn't mean they can't do tricks. What's more, the only partner of the spore life is Su Ran, because in their eyes, only Su Ran is a powerful civilized dog who is qualified to stand on the same level as them, while human beings are not qualified at all. This is what the spore life shows. It is very clear, but due to various reasons, the real performance is not obvious. Many people in the Xinjiang fleet even take it for granted that the spore life has really surrendered to humans and the Xinjiang fleet, and has sacrificed their lives for everyone, but Su Ran wouldn't fail to understand this point. Because of this, he didn't dare to let the spore life get too far away from him. Otherwise, God knows what this group of spore life that escaped their thinking would do. Therefore, Su Yaoang's battleship does not have the help of spore life. At this moment, they can only rely on the advanced equipment and tireless manpower on the battleship. And time in the starry sky, everything seems to be solved by time, and the time needed to solve the problem seems to be stretched, becoming countless times that on the Earth, which always makes people feel anxious and irritable. Su Yaoang took a deep breath and waited patiently, and at this moment, Zhang Xiaoyun sent a message: "We have pierced through the ice layer." It took Zhang Xiaoyun's team about 14 minutes to completely open up a deep circular hole with a diameter of about 2 meters on the ice layer of hundreds of meters, and at this time, from the perspective of the frigate on Su Yaoang's side, Zhang Xiaoyun's team was almost completely covered by rising steam. It seems to be surrounded by some extraordinary fairy energy, but the temperature of the environment will not allow a large amount of water vapor to exist, especially after the channel is opened and the laser shield machine stops working. The water vapor is rapidly condensing. The clothes were covered with a thin layer of white ice, like a layer of ice armor, but the black and white had a chilling feeling. Zhang Xiaoyun immediately issued a report: "This is the exploration team. The channel has been opened. We have already dropped the drone down. It's just blocked by the ice and the signal is not very good. I plan to bring half of the people down to explore. Approval is requested." Su Yaoang did not hesitate, and immediately replied, "Okay. Please be careful. The tunnel in the ice layer runs through 100 meters, and there may be a huge cavity structure underneath, but this is nothing to Zhang Xiaoyun and others. Although they are not awakened, their combat uniforms carry jet devices and rocket propulsion machine, which is enough for them to cope with the situation at the moment." Zhang Xiaoyun selected a few people and prepared to explore further. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 12 Under the Ice. Zhang Xiaoyun and his 6 team members are advancing along the inclined excavated tunnel. The billowing steam has long been recondensed under the icy temperature of this planet. Even with deceleration measures, their descending speed is still quite fast. The entrance behind them has become a small circular light hole, and they seem to have become a frog in a well, but in fact, this process is like riding a slide. This reminded Zhang Xiaoyun of the 300-meter ice slide that he once sat in the Ice City Ice and Snow World. At that time he still had a wife and children under the holographic mask. The corners of Zhang Xiaoyun's mouth curved inexplicably because he remembered the gentle smile of his wife and the excited look of the child that day. At present, the thickness of the ice layer is 130 meters, and the slightly inclined direction of the excavation makes the length of the tunnel reach nearly 200 meters. But it is still not as good as the ice slide in the Ice and Snow World. Just too dark. If a pure human enters here, then this gliding process will be an extremely dark and terrifying journey, just like people suddenly stumbled in their sleep. But Zhang Xiaoyun and his team are equipped with the most advanced personal nightstand in the Xinjiang fleet. With the help of visual equipment and their own lighting devices, for them, the brightness of this slide was sufficient, but it was deep and endless, as if they were sliding towards the giant mouth of some unpredictable terrifying creature. And when many people had the same idea, they came to the end suddenly. There was nothing under him, and the feeling of sinking came quickly. There is a big hole under the ice layer, and if you pass through the ice layer, you will naturally fall. Zhang Xiaoyun and others had been prepared for a long time, and immediately activated the thrusters of their spacesuits, and slowly stabilized their figures in midair. It was only then that they noticed that the underground was not completely dark, but some kind of strange crystals grew on the frozen upper layer of the ice cap. The blue light is actually very weak, and there are not many blue crystals, so it can only illuminate a small area. Looking down from here, it is still dark. At such a distance, the lighting equipment on their bodies also illuminates a small area. Do not where the height is at least 200 meters. Zhang Xiaoyun made a simple judgment, but they did not descend immediately. Zhu Wenbo, Chen Jia, you go to collect samples of that blue crystal. Pay attention to protection. That crystal is likely to have radiation. The others and I disperse vigilance, turn on the bioradar, the thermal radar, watch out for anything the temperature under the ice layer is even lower. At this moment, the surface temperature of this planet is around -30 degrees, but the temperature here exceeds -40 degrees further down. The temperature seems to get a little lower. Zhang Xiaoyun thought that the volume of this frozen planet was several times larger than that of the Earth at this time. He noticed that the signal was slightly poor, whether it was their internal communication or the signal from the outside. Under Zhang Xiaoyun's order, the two fighters flew towards the nearest blue crystal. Before they came down, they had already made sufficient preparations, bringing all kinds of things they could bring, including small material collection and storage devices, and as the only blue crystal that is suspected to be the rock of this planet so far, of course sampling is necessary, and the picture here was also sent back to the frigate where Su Yaoyang was at the first time. As the ice layer was dug deep here, Su Yaoyang also mobilized some resources and manpower to keep an eye on the situation here. Su Yaoyang tapped on the armrest of his captain's seat, looked at the slightly flickering picture, and said, "Captain Zhang, there seems to be a strong magnetic field underground, which has caused interference to our communication. If there is a situation, withdraw immediately." Receive. Zhang Xiaoyun responded immediately. At this time, the two warriors had already started collecting blue crystals. The blue crystal is not big, about the size of the fists of two adult men. Its body is crystal clear blue, like the crystal of raw ore, but there are no impurities, and it seems to grow in the ice layer, half of which are connected to the ice sheet. Could this be some kind of fluor spar? On the frigate's bridge, a relevant expert asked a question. At present, the radiation indicators on the two soldiers have not issued an early warning, which means that the radiation of this blue crystal has not reached the level that can cause harm to the human body. Zhu Wenbo and Chen Jia looked at each other, and after a brief exchange, they planned to chisel off the blue crystal and a small part of the surrounding ice in accordance with the instructions of the frigate expert group. This process took a lot of time. Fortunately, the ice layer is as thick as 100 meters, and it has existed for an unknown number of years. It is strong enough, and cutting only needs to worry about not damaging the sampling target. After the sampling was completed, Zhu Wenbo opened the metal backpack behind him and put the sample that had been locked in the containment box into it. Zhang Xiaoyun gestured towards them from a distance, signaling them to follow, and he began to descend. The six-person exploration team began to descend slowly. The cave under the ice seems to be endless. Looking left and right, there is endless darkness. The scale here seems to be comparable to the hole under our Arctic ice. Chen Jia, who came up, couldn't help but say something in this team. He is the youngest, only 21 years old, and he is always more vigorous and talks more than others when he comes to a strange planet. Unfortunately, no one responded this time. The underground cave was extremely empty, and they fell vertically. Because of caution, this process still took nearly a minute and a half, and the height of the cave where they were currently located was calculated to be 237.65 meters. In the process of descending, the interference to their signal became more and more serious, and when they were about 70 meters away from the ground, the communication with the frigate was almost cut off. They stayed at this position for a while. After reconnecting with the battleship and discussing it, Zhang Xiaoyun's team decided to continue descending to the ground. At this time, neither their internal communication nor the communication with the frigate had been interrupted. Zhang Xiaoyun ordered the team to turn on the sounding device of the combat uniform, preparing for direct communication, and at the same time rechecked whether their cameras were working well, so as to ensure that the recorded ground data could be consulted and studied by the fleet after returning. But at this moment, Chen Jia, who was at the back, suddenly saw a flashing shadow. There is a situation. Everyone immediately entered a state of alert, and the lighting equipment scanned the surroundings. Infrared thermal radar did not detect the target. Biological detection radar did not detect any targets. The motion detection radar has detected an unknown object moving around us. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 13, The Great Retreat. It has been confirmed and verified. A minute ago, the Proxima Centauri fleet launched a batch of dodecahedral cone-shaped spacecraft and began to move towards the Earth. The command center of the temporary headquarters of the Xinjiang fleet on Kyushu Island. This latest news made the busy and noisy command center fall into a brief silence. Zhang Jianggu, who was responding to calls and inquiries from all over the world, and Zheng Shihoshino, who was carrying out a Kyushu Island evacuation plan, stood up from the crowd at almost the same time and came to the main screen in the center. The picture has been adjusted to the space picture provided by the observation station on the ground and the orbital planetary defense system satellite array in space. At present, the Earth has not really lost too much. except for the areas affected by tidal forces and the North American continent that has been attacked head-on. The other areas are actually in good condition, and the ring planet defense system in space has not suffered any damage attack, and because of this, any movement of the Proxima Centauri fleet can be clearly transmitted back to the ground immediately. At this moment, in the picture, one can see a shining spot of light floating out from the Proxima Star-class battleship that has no strange stagnation at the far end of space. That is the dense dodecahedral cone-shaped spaceship. According to detection, their number is around 500. This scale must be huge. You must know that in the first round of the previous battle, the three battle groups on the Xinjiang fleet faced only more than 200 dodecahedral cone-shaped spaceships. The 500 dodecahedron-shaped spaceships left the Proxima Star-class battleship and rushed towards the Earth like a galaxy in the air. Rapidly zooming in on the screen, looking at it from this angle, it seems that the starry sky on this side is brilliant and bright, as if it has been covered with a luminous curtain. But their first goal was not to enter the Earth. The 500 dodecahedral cone-shaped spaceships exploded in mid-air before they were completely approached, cascading and spinning, and 400 of them flew along the planet, aiming at the Earth. 4 groups of space satellite battle groups of the circumplanetary defense system at the same time. All satellite combat headquarters on the Earth immediately entered a state of emergency response. Previously, with the drastic changes in the situation, the arrival of the Proxima Xinjiang-class warships, and the Xinjiang fleet's disastrous defeat, the planetary defense system on Earth basically entered a ceasefire state and did not start attacking again, because everyone knew that, given the situation at the time, it was better to use this opportunity to evacuate and resettle the people than to provoke the Proxima fleet to fight head-on. Until this moment, when the Proxima Centauri fleet started to attack, the circumplanetary defense system was restarted and began to fight back. Regardless of whether it can resist or not, human beings will not sit here and wait for death. The 4 sets of satellite attack arrays in space rearranged, and opened fire in the face of the Proxima fleet, which was far superior in number and technology. The Earth's sky lights up with dots of flash, and in the center of this dense dodecahedron-shaped spaceship, there are still 100 Proxima Centauri dodecahedron spaceships converging into a flashing torrent and diving towards the Earth. They form a streamlined structure. In the middle of the dense spaceship group, there is a giant unknown spacecraft with a length of 1 kilometer. At this moment, the circumplanetary defense system is no longer able to prevent this group of Proxima Centauri dodecahedron spacecraft from entering the Earth. The target of this group of Proxima Centauri warships that is about to enter the atmosphere is in the Pacific Ocean, and we still have time. Hoshino Junksha stared at this scene and began to issue a series of orders. The evacuation plan was accelerated in advance. The Proxima fleet has not yet launched a full-scale attack, and this will be their last chance to evacuate. However, the most critical problem has not yet been resolved. A consultant ran up and said with embarrassment, "We simply can't evacuate so many people now." "I know," Hoshino Junksha said, "with our current transportation capacity, not to mention the evacuation of nearly 300,000 ordinary people gathered near Mirai City on Kyushu Island, it is the evacuation of more than 20,000 members of the Xinjiang fleet, and it is impossible for the family members, just according to the plan we just settled. First withdraw the technical personnel and important equipment and materials, and then withdraw the combat personnel. If we still have the chance by then, the third batch will withdraw the engineers and personnel. People in the logistics team. As for others, we can't save so many people." The consultant gritted his teeth and nodded, intending to accept the order and go down to make arrangements immediately. However, at this moment, someone was running outside in a hurry. It was a small captain of the outer housing fighters. When he saw Junksha Hoshino, he immediately ran over and said, "There is a situation. Captain Z, I hope you can go and take a look." Although Captain Z Yuanho is called the captain, he is an old man in the fleet. When he was in Xinjiang, he was the person in charge of the defense of the ground command of the Xinjiang fleet. He directly participated in the previous battle of the Xinjiang headquarters. He should also, knowing the seriousness of the current situation, "Let yourself pass now." Hoshino Junksha frowned, but still nodded, and trotted outside with the warrior. The wind was howling outside, and there were shouts and cries everywhere. When the catastrophe comes, no one or any government can guarantee everyone a sense of normalcy, and the Xinjiang fleet is no exception. Z Yuanho is waiting for Junksha Hoshino on the watchtower not far away. When the Japanese girl also stood up, he pointed to the horizon in the distance. "Look over there." The sea was churning, and from the sea, huge battle insects were rising up, stirring up the waves, roaring up to the sky, and approaching here with extremely heavy steps. "This is..." Z Yuanho squinted his eyes and watched this scene. "Look at the sky." Hoshino Junksha raised his gaze, and then widened his eyes in surprise. A silver figure is flying in the sky, with a graceful and slender figure, floating in the windy sky, but it seems to be above the entire swarm of insects, so tall and mighty, looking down on the world. But it is an acquaintance that many people in the Xinging fleet know. That's the queen of the swarm, Meng Yibai. Behind her, many huge war bugs rose from the waves and strode towards the Xinging fleet headquarters. Zi Yuanhu looked at this scene with a complicated expression. Miss Hoshino, look at her, she's here to help us. Junxia Hoshino hadn't seen the queen of the swarm before, and unexpectedly, she went back to move the war worms, and even if she didn't have any trust, there were only large war worms. It is impossible to be attacked by a swarm of insects in one scene. Hoshino Junxia felt as if a big stone had fallen in her heart. She looked at these huge war insects that were slowly advancing with the help of the swarm. The nearly 300,000 people gathered on Kyushu Island can be saved. Chapter 14. The Swarm. On the island of Kyushu, an unprecedented mass evacuation kicked off in the deep sea. Huge war worms landed on the land of Kyushu Island. Some of them looked like manatees, and some looked weird like ancient aquatic dinosaurs. They dragged their heavy and huge bodies out of the deep sea to meet a temporary station in the future city that has not yet been built in the distance. But this time, they didn't come to attack and kill the Xinging fleet headquarters on Kyushu Island, and nearly 300,000 survivors from all over the world will be evacuated to all parts of the world through them. The evacuation forecast was already prepared, but Hoshino Junxia couldn't find a way to transport so many people trapped on Kyushu Island in batches. But now, with a solution, everything becomes easier. Meng Yibai was skimming over the insect swarm, and was the first to enter the huge temporary survivor base outside the future city, and entered the temporary command center of the Xinging fleet headquarters. From the sound of shots along the way, a large number of survivors looked up at this scene. The arrival of the huge war worms outside had already spread among the survivors, and everyone knew that it was the swarm of worms in the temporary survivor base of the entire future city. The Xinging fleet is turning on the broadcast, and the voice of the announcement echoes over the entire survivor base. This is the headquarters of the Xinging fleet. A large swarm of insects is currently landing along the coastline. Please don't panic, this swarm of insects is not an enemy, they are here to help us. We will use these giant war insects to completely wipe out Kyushu Island. Next, please follow the instructions of the executive officers of the Xinging fleet in each division to the designated location. This is, loud voices echoed, drones and radios carried messages to every corner of the makeshift survivor base. Every survivor finds the situation somewhat incomprehensible at the moment. Why would the swarm help them evacuate? For many people, the cooperation between the Zerg swarm and the Xinging fleet is still a secret. Even if some people have heard about it, it is said that the interaction between the Xinging fleet and the Zerg swarm has been particularly close recently, but it has never been really confirmed until today. The answer is already on the paper. Junxia Hoshino was the first to come out to greet her, raised her head, and watched the girl with silver-gray skin descend from midair. Her perfect figure and exaggerated way of appearing on the stage attracted many people to look at her a few more times. Meng Yibai landed on the ground, but looked up at the sky instead. At the far end of the sky, clusters of small firefly-like flashes are shining, accompanied by meteors passing by occasionally, disappearing into space in the blink of an eye. If this was a time of peace, this must have been a fantastic and beautiful scene, but now that the world is in turmoil and the tide of the apocalypse is raging, this scene now looks more like a prelude to destruction. Hoshino Junxia and Meng Yibai both knew that it was not a meteor at all. It was the destroyed space satellite combat group of whose circumplanetary defense system being destroyed one by enemy ships in space, and the flickering light was that they were in the sky explode. And because there is a satellite group over Asia at this moment, everyone on Kyushu Island can see this scene. However, what they can witness is only the fringe situation of the space annihilation war. According to the latest information feedback, the 4 satellite attack groups currently deployed in space have been completely defeated, unable to withstand the attack of the Proxima Centauri fleet at all, and are being destroyed utterly. This means that there is not much time left for them. Hoshino Junxia and Meng Yibai looked at each other and understood that this moment is not the time to talk nonsense. Hoshino Junxia handed the prepared portable terminal to Meng Yibai, and said, "This is the retreat plan we have compiled. The soldiers of the Xinging fleet, including their families, have detailed everyone's retreat plan. For other ordinary survivors, I will divide them by region. It's all inside. I need you to control your swarm and disperse them." Having said that, Junxia Hoshino paused for a moment, and instinctively glanced in the direction where the swarm of insects came from. Of course, she still couldn't see the huge war bugs summoned by Meng Yibai at this position, so she asked, "How many big war bugs do we have?" "Not many. There are only 230, each of which can carry 1 to 200 people at most. Meng Yibei responded immediately. These are marine war worms, a group tailored for the Earth's ocean system, although it travels slowly on land, but when entering the sea, its speed is comparable to that of an ordinary frigate. Although these giant war bugs look huge in size, they are not powerful bugs in themselves, let alone space-level or general-purpose war bugs of the swarm. Instead, they were cultivated and adapted to the ocean conditions of the Earth after they came to the Earth. The new type of war insects on the Earth, therefore, their number is not large, their intelligence level is not high, and their importance is not much. When the insect swarm retreats, these almost marginalized insects are directly abandoned, and they can only follow along, wandering in the sea, floating around like a lonely ghost. But because of this, there has never been any conflict with the humans preparing for the Battle of Proxima Centauri, and because they are fringe worms, their loyalty to the Queen is absolutely undeniable. As long as they are called, they will immediately gather from all directions to respond to the call of the Queen of the Swarm. Hoshino Junksha's heart sank slightly when she heard the words. Just now she saw the momentum, and thought that there would be nearly 1,000 large war insects no matter what, but she didn't expect so few. However, it is meaningless to be fast in the ocean without sufficient protection and fixed measures. In the current situation, if the Proxima fleet clears the 4 groups of satellite attack groups in space, it will choose to attack humans. Kyushu Island knew the headquarters of the Beijing fleet must be the first target of their attack. Based on this situation, they can evacuate 2 to 3 groups of people at most. According to the most ideal situation, it is about 120,000 people less than average for the survivors who are currently here. But now is not the time to talk about this, Hoshino Junksha said directly. I understand. We will start the evacuation process now. Meng Yibei nodded. She took the terminal handed to her by Junksha Hoshino, looked at it and quickly lifted off into the air, making a silent low-frequency scream in mid-air, directing these large war insects to prepare to welcome their passengers on the other side. Hoshino Junksha immediately began to evacuate all levels of personnel in the temporary headquarters of the Xinjiang Fleet Command, engineering, biology, ground medical. In the headquarters, batches of personnel were withdrawn, and the materials were brought out. Only Zhang Jianguo was still leading a group of people to contact various countries, because according to Hoshino Junksha's deployment, a large number of people would land in various countries, and they had to be say hello first. The ground headquarters of the Xinjiang fleet is in full swing for an unprecedented retreat. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Indigenous Creatures. The temperature at the bottom of the cave under the ice layer is -42 degrees. Zhang Xiaoyan was staring at the things in front of him. His integrated automatic lighting equipment perceives the operator's movement and body position, and quickly adjusts the lighting direction. Facing the front right there, where the radar showed, there was a living creature, and it wasn't any of the 6 of them, and it wasn't a drone. It was a translucent, off-white mass about the size of an old-fashioned mailbox. In other words, its body is light gray, but the hair covering its body, about 10 centimeters long, is translucent pale white. These translucent hairs swayed gently as if they were alive, changing their color little by little. As if they wanted to make the body covered by the hairs more transparent. As if they didn't exist. This appearance makes it as unobtrusive as a chameleon in this almost absolutely dark environment, and is easily overlooked in this dark environment. If you follow the light and glance at it, if you don't take a closer look, you won't even realize that there is such a thing there. And just now, it was this thing that caused Zhang Xiaoyan's team to issue a series of alarms. It has no body temperature. The outer hair is not used for insulation, but some kind of natural defense organ. Moreover, just now, it was still moving, until it was completely discovered and illuminated by the light. It did not move at all. Like a strange piece of coral or other planktonic aquatic organisms, only that the hair fluttered with each breath. It doesn't move. It feels like a person who has never seen the light before saw the light, thought it was something special and dangerous, and was too scared to move for a while. There was silence. No one in the team spoke. They only communicated by hand gestures, because their intercoms had been turned off because the signal was disturbed. And speaking at this time meant making a real noise, and if you make a sound, it is likely to alarm the things in this position. Zhang Xiaoyan made several gestures, instructing the 2 fighters to move slowly and outflank them with weapons. While he led the other 4 fighters to attract attention from the front and approach slowly, this translucent creature appears to have no eyes. This may have something to do with the dark environment here, but it means it has other ways of sensing, and it's impossible to tell if it's aggressive or not. Zhang Xiaoyun didn't intend to back down. He is a soldier of the Xinjiang fleet, a person in the interstellar era, and he still has weapons in his hands. If this creature is really a creature, it is obviously impossible to be something advanced. At most it is a wild animal from an alien planet. Most critically, their mission is to discover, detect, identify and eliminate risks. Zhang Xiaoyun wanted to bring a sample up, so he planned to capture it alive, but a previous judgment seemed to be correct. It was very timid, and under the light of Zhang Xiaoyun, it shrank into a ball and did not dare to move. However, Zhang Xiaoyun noticed that as the 6 people on his side approached, the frequency of the translucent tower that was swaying slowly without wind on its body was becoming higher. Evidently, it sensed the approach and felt nervous, but dared not move. The whole process went smoothly. This is a timid and cowardly creature. The distance is getting closer. Zhang Xiaoyun and the others did not dare to be careless, and proceeded cautiously with every step. 10 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters. At this moment, the translucent thing suddenly moved, and the translucent hairs on the curled up body suddenly stood up one by one. Zhang Xiaoyun saw that there were exaggerated stretches on its body and between the pores. A series of gaps were opened, and a piercing scream came out. If that kind of sound that makes people's eardrums vibrate and instantly makes them feel sick is called screaming, and this is still separated by spacesuits, Zhang Xiaoyun's expression changed immediately, and at this moment, Chen Jia, who was at the rear, suddenly said, "Captain, there is something approaching from our left front." There was a sharp whistle. The soldier standing in front of Chen Xiaoyun on the left side suddenly let out a muffled grunt. He was hit hard by something, and his body suddenly moved forward. One of them couldn't stand steadily, and almost fell directly to the ground. "There are enemies," the translucent thing suddenly roared, and somehow its body jumped up on the spot. It jumped up to a height of more than 7 meters, and flight over the heads of Zhang Xiaoyun and the others like fleas. After a few jumps, he disappeared into the darkness, and in the left front, there is a black shadow rushing towards it, rushing towards this side, and throwing some huge ice picks and ice cubes at the same time. Zi Wenbo rushed up at the first time, and helped the soldier who was knocked down. In fact, the soldier was just knocked down by a half-person high ice cube suddenly thrown from the darkness. Before he was hit, the consciousness developed in training has allowed him to take evasive actions at the first time, but the ice block was too big and he was still hit. But although the others were knocked down, they were not injured. Resist and absorb 70% of the impact, and that huge piece of ice obviously couldn't break through the defense, but everyone changed color slightly. Being able to use items means something with a certain amount of intelligence on such a planet. There are still living and intelligent creatures. A few rays of light shone in the past in an instant, and the figure of the attacker was undoubtedly revealed. It was a huge monster more than 3 meters high. It looked like a steeple. Its body was covered with a thick black carapace. There were 8 thick and hard crab-like joints to support its rapid movement. And its body below, there is something that seems to be a head in the center of the 8 arc-shaped legs, with many eyes-like things and unknown hole-like organs on it, and besides that, there are also growths on its spire-like body. 2 huge blades. These blades are extremely sharp. They can easily tear the icy ground, and set off a huge ice block to smash it here with great force. This is the creature that attacked Zhang Xiaoyun's team. Moreover, its moving speed is quite fast. It took only a few breaths and 10 seconds from its appearance to the present, and it has already rushed from 100 meters away within sight to a position less than 10 meters away from Zhang Xiaoyun and the others. The huge dark body of Jinfeng looks manic and terrifying under the light, like a family member of the evil god who ran out of the Cthulhu mythology, but unfortunately, its attack failed to cause any effect. The huge ice cube was directly shot through in the air, and when it approached a sufficient distance, Zhang Xiaoyun, who had already changed his weapon, directly fired an electric energy bomb accompanied by a flash of light. The lightning on this terrifying spire creature flickered randomly, and then fell down. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 16 Tearing. Earth. Kyushu Island. Zhongsha Hoshino was slowly taking off in the Nightingale aircraft. The ground became far away, and the angle of view quickly changed to a bird's eye view. As far as Hoshino Zhongsha could see, on the ground, huge giant bugs were carrying a large number of humans away from the survivor base and back to the ocean. This is the last group to evacuate, but this is not the last batch to remove everyone. A large number of survivors can only remain on this island. Some survivors have already begun to flee to other directions of Dongying Island, while all the old, weak, sick and disabled who voluntarily gave up the opportunity to evacuate to others are still staying in the survivor base, looking at the future of Kyushu Island, which is half established. Cheng was in a daze. Hoshino Junction couldn't take everyone away. She can only choose to take away those who are more useful to the future. This may be cruel, but it is a necessary choice. After this glance, Junksha Hoshino slowly turned her head and looked at the tablet in her hand, which showed where she had scattered these survivors and the members of the Xinjiang fleet. Everywhere will be the new foothold of Xinjiang fleet people, and the battle in space is drawing to a close. The second huge cone-shaped object was escorted by the dodecahedron spacecraft of Proxima Centauri and fell into the Earth. This time, it landed on the northeast plain of Huaxia, the land of Asia, and plunged into Xinjiang province in Longjiang like a wedge. Provincial boundaries. A dense dodecahedral cone of spaceships swirled around it as it began to dig down. One is the Pacific Ocean, and the other is the northeast plain. No one knows what the two things dropped by the Proxima fleet were for, at least not yet, and at this moment, the pilot of the Nightingale aircraft suddenly shouted, "The enemy is found." Junksha Hoshino's face changed, and she immediately raised her head to look out the window. There was a flash of light in the sky, like a galaxy falling towards the Earth, approaching them at high speed. Before it even got close, dense rays pierced through the sky, bombarding the survivor base on the ground and the warbugs that were carrying the last batch of evacuated survivors. There was a loud bang. A battle worm was hit by 3 terrifying laser rays. 3 penetrating wounds with a diameter of about 2 meters exploded on the body. Half of the head was directly lifted, and the body only shook slightly, and it exploded like a golden mountain and a jade pillar. When it collapsed, the whole earth trembled violently, and the survivors riding the warbug fell down one after another like dumplings, screaming and falling into serious injuries, wailing endlessly. But there is no rescue at this time, and no one can lend a helping hand with the current combat power in hand. It is impossible for them to be opponents of the Proxima Star Fleet. Judging from the current data, the number of Proxima 12-sided cone-shaped spacecraft that attacked the headquarters of the Xinjiang fleet on Kyushu Island was at least more than 100. This is an opponent that cannot be matched at all. Hoshino Junksha issued a series of orders to stop the opponent from attacking. And those huge war insects seemed to feel something in the dark, or maybe they received orders from the queen of this swarm, and they also quickened their pace and started running on the ground in great strides. The ground rumbled and trembled, and some of the survivors who sat on it couldn't be fixed or stable, and were even thrown off on the spot farther back. The makeshift survivor base is being engulfed in explosions. Proxima Centauri dodecahedron cone-shaped spaceships approaching at high speed quickly formed an array in midair, forming a huge laser disc, heading down from the sky above the future city. The command building of the Xinjiang headquarters crashed down. The flashes of blows lit up the sky and the earth. The ground cracked, and the future city fell apart amidst loud noises. A large number of Proxima dodecahedral conical battleships turned and rushed out, killing the living people in the temporary survivor base on the one hand, and killing the fleeing fleet on the other, chasing and killing them frantically. It was almost a one-sided massacre. Even Junksha Hoshino's Nightingale aircraft was hit. The wings were billowing with smoke, and he had no choice but to descend all the way. Damn. Junksha Hoshino's pupils reflected this feast of death. Her teeth were clenched, her eyes were bloodshot, but she was helpless. She couldn't even guarantee her own survival. She could only watch helplessly as the Proxima fleet carried out this massacre, destroying Xinjiang. The fleet was destroyed. The only thing to be thankful for is that she has already removed most of the people who can be removed, and at this moment, a surprised voice sounded from one side. "Look." "What's that?" Junksha Hoshino turned her head in surprise, and saw a figure slowly rising from the turbulent sea. Pale silver-gray skin, bright vertical pupils, and a slender body that was Meng Yibai. The girl was rising from under the sea, and with her rising, water bubbles surged in the ocean one by one, and then rapidly increased, and low-end deep-sea war insects with hideous faces gushed out of the ocean. They do not pose any threat to the Proxima fleet, but they are not afraid of death. Under the Queen's order, they stack up on each other, actively using their lives to resist the death rays of the Proxima fleet. But Meng Yibai rose higher and higher under the support of a huge creature like a sea snake. Her gaze was like lightning, and she looked directly at the Proxima Centauri dodecahedron spacecraft rushing forward. A piercing laser beam rips through the sky and hits her, and she raises her arm slightly. The space seemed to be distorted at this moment. The laser ray carrying terrifying energy seemed to hide a folding mirror in midair, and the scattered light flowed out into a large and strange area, and then deflected 30 degrees abruptly, 7 distance away from Meng Yibei. 10 meters passed by and crashed into the seawater behind the girl, and Meng Yibei was raising his arms to face the dodecahedron-shaped spaceship. Dark energy surges in space. The figure of the Proxima Centauri dodecahedral cone-shaped spacecraft advancing at high speed suddenly stagnated, as if stuck in a quagmire, and as it advanced, its speed became slower and slower, and the shield on it seemed to have not been attacked. The situation suddenly reveals an eggshell-like deconstruction, and then, it twists and deforms under unknown pressure. Meng Yibei's pupils are becoming brighter, her silver hair is dancing violently, and even the 6 decorative lines on her face are shining brightly beside her. It seemed that a storm was surging. Then, there was a click. All the light on the dodecahedral cone-shaped spaceship was instantly extinguished, and the entire spaceship was torn apart out of thin air in the center, breaking into 2 halves, and falling tragically to the sea below. Meng Yibei staggered, his face turned pale, and he almost fell off the sea snake's back. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 17. The beginning. The waves outside Kyushu Island were surging, but the Nightingale aircraft at Hoshino Junction was on fell all the way. At this moment, he couldn't even see the situation of the island behind him clearly, only the entire sky that was illuminated red by the flames. The severely damaged Nightingale aircraft was gliding forward on the sea surface, but the attack of the dodecahedral cone-shaped spacecraft was temporarily restrained. No, perhaps that cannot be said to be restrained at all. Someone has attracted their attention. The flashing rays of the Proxima Centauri dodecahedral cone-shaped spacecraft are like beams of light falling from the sky, piercing the sky and sinking all the way into the deep sea, reflecting the brilliance of the deep and turbulent ocean. The huge sea snake-like sea monster has been dismembered. Its huge body was broken into several sections, smashed into the seawater, and was swallowed by the turbulent water waves in the blink of an eye. In the high sky, Meng Yibei's figure rose like lightning, and flew to the other end of the battlefield. The dozens of Proxima dodecahedral spaceships chasing them were all attracted by her amazing blow just now. After judging that she is the queen of the swarm and a rare and powerful dark energy controller, her killing priority was immediately raised above the last batch of Xinjiang fleet retreating teams who were fleeing tragically here, and began to struggle. Chase Hard and the other dodecahedral cone-shaped spaceships are still completely destroying the huge survivor base in the future city and its surroundings. There will be time for Hoshino Junction and the last group of retreaters. Even though Meng Yibei has been strengthened by the swarm, she is still a body of flesh and blood, and it is impossible to resist laser cannons with her body. She can only rely on her own dark energy to deflect blows, while the Proxima fleet's laser cannon is not a random laser beam, and it cannot be deflected at will. This not only requires powerful and delicate dark energy control, but also has extremely strong computing power. If it wasn't for the strengthening of the swarm, which improved her brain, she would have been shot down by this time. But as soon as she attracted the attention of the Proxima Centauri spacecraft, she also began to quickly distance herself away from Junction Hoshino and the others while staying as close to the sea level as possible, using the seawater to help her create more leeway. And more, this can be used to make up for the fact that her own speed is far below that of the Proxima Centauri spacecraft. The 2 sides chased and fled at a fast speed. On the other side, Junction Hoshino and the others finally went far into the sea, gradually divided into several groups, and went to their respective retreat locations according to the original plan. The Nightingale aircraft at Hoshino Junction was on finally wobbled and successfully raised a certain distance. Hoshino Junction turned his head and looked at the Kyushu Island behind him. The future city where more than half of the Xinjiang fleet has been built is about 10 kilometers away from the coastline, and this distance is a flat wasteland. This is the impact of the raging insects and the previous Kyushu Island war on this land. Therefore, at this moment, when the height of the Nightingale aircraft is high enough, Hoshino Junction can see the burning city in the distance. The headquarters building of Xinjiang Future City, which was more than half established, has been annihilated and turned into fly ash, and flames are burning everywhere there. The crimson flames illuminate the sky, and billowing smoke plumes go straight into the sky, and between the flames and smoke pillars, the shining Proxima dodecahedral cone-shaped spaceships crisscrossed, like cold lightning bolts, still dropping destructive blows. There are at least 50,000 more people there, and in the clouds of the sky, the destroyed attack satellite is turning into a meteor and falling to the earth. This scene is like the end of the world recorded in religion. Hoshino Junction slowly clenched her fists. She understood that this was just the beginning. This is only the beginning of the real catastrophe. The real war begins today. On the land of Huaxia capital, the first important person's office, The news came in the first time Kyushu Island's Zinging Fleet headquarters, Future City and Survivor Base have been destroyed by the Proxima Fleet 10 minutes ago, and nearly 60,000 people died under the attack of the Proxima Fleet. The intelligence officer who came to report had a serious face. At present, what can be confirmed is that the Zinging Fleet does have a cooperative relationship with the new Queen of the Swarm, and it is very close. It is reported that the Queen of the Swarm in a near-human form was transformed by a Chinese human. In this battle, she assisted the Zinging Fleet to evacuate a large number of survivors and resources, and took the initiative to intercept the dodecahedron spaceships and warships of the Proxima Fleet. According to preliminary judgments, her dark energy level has exceeded the highest awakened person established by the current Xinjiang researcher. Level 17, and this time, the war worms under her command also sacrificed a lot of life. Li Jianbang nodded slightly. If it was in normal times, the connection between the Zinging Fleet and the Swarm would be enough to cause a global shock. I don't know how many people would attack the Zinging Fleet for this. They even began to doubt the commander, His Excellency Su, of course, but now, this is a good thing. There are still a lot of advanced equipment and weapons in the Zinging Fleet, as well as those talents. They are all heading for the future city. It is good to be able to withdraw. Handle it properly. Li Jianbang didn't even show a little bit of surprise. Huaxia is not a small country, and he, Li Jianbang, is not a mediocre person. In fact, he has already found out some clues about these things, so it is not surprising that he has confirmed it now. Under the circumstances, as he himself said, this matter itself is a good thing for the current human beings. It is a good thing for any power to stand with human beings even if it's a swarm. North American Pacific Abbott is moving closer to Australia. The post-disaster rescue progress after the land sinking in North America was slow, but as the head of U.S. imperialism, he could no longer sit here because the battleships of the Proxima Centauri have begun to enter the Earth's atmosphere. With the destruction of the ring planet's defense system, the last fig leaf covering the Earth's defense system has been lifted, and what will happen next is almost self-evident. You think disaster is about to strike? Albert has no choice. He must first leave North America, where he can no longer stay, with the current American imperial command system centered on himself. South America is also experiencing various disasters due to land sinking and tidal forces. In contrast, Australia is Albert's only option. Fortunately, the global United Front is now unprecedentedly stable due to the arrival of the Proxima Fleet, and Australia is willing to provide any kind of support to the United States free of charge at this moment. Albert, whose news had become lagging, got the news from Kyushu Island about 5 minutes later than Huaxia. After hearing the news, the head of state of the United States let out a long sigh and said, "The Zinging Fleet is finished, and the circumplanetary defense system is almost finished, but this is just the beginning." The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 18 Target Galaxy. Ready to start the jump on the bridge of the Wanderer, Li Yilin was sitting on the adjutant's seat, and was giving the jump command, but her eyes couldn't help but glance at the position of the captain's seat in front of her. It was empty there, and Su Rain was not here just about half an hour ago. Li Yilin, who was serving as the temporary first commander on the bridge, received positive feedback from Su Yaoang's special exploration team. The target star system's danger level was rated as low. This set of evaluation system is the system that the space exploration project team of the Zinging Fleet has already come up with. In this system, there are 7 levels from extremely low, low, medium, high, extremely high, dangerous, and extremely dangerous. The extremely low grade indicates that there are stars in the space of the star field, but there is no natural danger or any sign of biological existence, while the low grade means that there is life or slight cosmic disasters, but it is far from enough to cause danger to the fleet. In the future 5 levels and so on. The highest level of extreme danger is a theoretical value. It is a level of danger that can be killed when encountered. In theory, it is a level of danger that even sends out signals. No one knows why the space exploration project team of the fleet set up this level. It's a pity that no one can answer now, because the space exploration project team of the Zinging Fleet is a non-combat auxiliary unit. They failed to board the fleet and are now left on the Earth. These ratings were one of many future plans for the Zinging Fleet at that time, such as the Future City, the Mars Transformation Plan, the Solar System Defense Plan. It's a pity that these plans have basically been stranded, but they are more or less helping the Zinging Fleet that is currently exploring interstellar space in this world. There is very little preparation that is really meaningless. If you have prepared everything but failed to use it, don't be depressed and feel that you are doing useless work. Because that means you are very lucky. The news from Su Yaoyang's exploration team shocked the entire fleet. The negative emotions brought about by the war, the wounded and the battle damage before have even weakened a lot. Most humans still like to feel down to earth. The fleet immediately held a joint meeting to determine the immediate target star system. This leads to the scene of the upcoming transition. The battle group number 1 Cloud City has also been mostly included in the huge battleship of Nomad. And the black space carrier platform is slowly adjusting its direction and preparing to start the transition. There was no problem in this process. The huge battleship turned in the air, entered the transition channel, and then jumped out of the target star system. The white and blue planet jumped in front of them. Su Yaoyang had guided it in advance to ensure that the Xinjiang fleet could jump here accurately. Immediately the Wanderer began to descend. The Xinjiang fleet has no intention of landing the entire fleet on this planet. They will be parked in the synchronous orbit of this planet and become a huge satellite revolving on this planet, because judging from the current situation, although this is a solid planet, there are no basic facilities for the fleet to live and park on it. The Xinjiang fleet did not come here for interstellar immigration. Beyond the planet is the best option. Even so, many people on the Wanderer were amazed at the huge planet that seemed so close at hand. It's really an alien planet. We've come to an alien planet. I just read the fleet announcement. This is a rocky planet with an atmosphere and is very similar to Earth. This is great, really great. After the Xinjiang fleet fled to the starry sky and came to this star field far away from the Earth, lifelessness has always been the main theme of the entire fleet, but today, from top to bottom, the atmosphere is invigorated. This is exactly what Li Yilin hoped to see, and it was also the fundamental reason why Yuan Licheng immediately spread the good news about the star system to the entire fleet in the form of an announcement. In the past 3 days, Su Yaoyang's team has completely completed the preliminary exploration of this star system, and named the stars in the 5 orbits as the first, second, and third according to the distance from the star of the target star system, 4th and 5th stars among them. The 4th and 5th planets have been confirmed to be gaseous planets, and the 3rd planet is the only planet with life that has been detected so far. However, according to the information sent back, the life on this planet is very strange, but very strange. Originally, it could not pose any situational threat to the Xinjiang fleet, and the 2nd star is also a solid planet, but its volume is very small, about twice the size of the Moon, without an atmosphere, and it is similar to the 3rd star. The distance is very far, but it is very close to the 1st star and the star, so the surface temperature is quite high. In comparison, the 3rd star is still the most beneficial to the current Xinjiang fleet. The 1st star is a lava planet with the current capabilities of the Xinjiang fleet and the ability of Su Ran's system to manufacture the optional industrial ships in the list. It is not a problem to mine a lava planet, but the process is bound to be troublesome, and there is no such need, and such planets naturally cannot have any life, and no traces of other advanced civilizations have been found in this star system. There may be many civilizations in the universe, but the universe itself is larger, and the distance between stars is also farther. The probability of encounter is actually quite low. Compared with the same direction, the Earth is such an example. Although the Earth may be an ancient battlefield, there are many bereaved dogs hiding on the Earth, but that was all happened many years ago. For so many years, according to historical records, it just happened to bump into the panic-stricken insect swarm for the Xinjiang fleet. This target star system is exactly what they want. The Xinjiang fleet was full of joy. Li Yilin was also a little excited. She also missed the Earth. A broken fleet can't do anything, but now they have found an unowned star system, and there are resources that are easy to mine, which is completely different from before. This is hope, the beginning of their return home. Only Li Yilin's eyes still involuntarily fell on the captain's seat in front. The commander did not participate in the previous resolution meeting. He has almost never shown up since fleeing to the starry sky, although Li Yilin knew that Su Ran was discussing something with his spore life, but the commander's condition did not seem to be that good. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 19 The Request of Spore Life. The scenery outside the porthole changed in a short period of time, and the empty and dark boundless starry sky became a huge planet. Looking out from the small porthole, only the half-arc outline of the pale star could be seen. Only at this time, facing such a giant, can human beings truly feel their own insignificance. But Su Ran only took one look, then withdrew his gaze and landed on the person in front of him. At this moment, he was sitting in a small private chat room on the Wanderer, and sitting opposite him was a beautiful oriental woman with white skin like snow, capable and refreshing if this is an island country movie. Su Ran flashed this idea as if he had gone to the wrong scene, and then shook his head. This woman isn't even human. That is, Liu Tingting is representative of them. The Spore Life has long wanted to talk to Su Ran, but due to various reasons, Su Ran didn't really sit here until now, ready to talk to the Spore Life. But Su Ran didn't speak for a long time. The cold scene lasted for about 5 minutes, and the transition was completed. It was Liu Tingting who gently opened her lips and asked, "What are your plans for the future?" After occupying it for quite a long time, Liu Tingting's every move became more and more like a normal person. Su Ran glanced at it, thought for a while before answering. Call back regarding this answer. Liu Tingting had a strange expression, both unexpected and unsurprising. "This is a very strange expression. We thought you would take this opportunity to travel far into the starry sky." Su Ran didn't intend to rely on Liu Tingting's expression to judge what the other person was thinking, because it was meaningless. Even if she looked like a human being, she was not a real human being, but a parasitic expelling shell controlled by Spore Life, in which case, any expression it shows may be what it wants to show you, rather than a real emotion. Therefore, at this moment, Su Ran only looked at it silently, and replied lightly with the answer he had prepared. "Proxima dares to hit me. I can't bear it." This sentence sounds a bit funny, even a bit like children fighting, but the Spore Life seems to believe it all at once. It seems that for them, this is a person who fits Su Ran's identity and is likely to do the above actions. Reason. Then Liu Tingting said in a soft voice, "We can help you." Su Ran narrowed her eyes slightly and said, "How are you going to help me?" The Xinjing fleet was defeated, and the Spore Life kept clamoring to see him. Of course, this couldn't be because, as a good friend of the Alliance, they wanted to comfort the defeated Su Ran. They must have other purposes and ideas. Su Ran did not choose to meet them for a long time, which was also one of the most critical reasons the Alliance of Spore Life may be true, but if they take the initiative to see the bottom line, it must be beneficial to themselves. If it is beneficial to Spore Life, it is difficult to guarantee that it is also beneficial to the Xinjing fleet and Su Ran himself. Even if it is only 1%, one's danger is also a danger, and one must think twice. That's why Su Ran chose such an opportunity and came to see Liu Tingting and Spore Life. After confirming that the target star system could indeed provide resources for the Xinjing fleet, because it meant that he already had a way out. Even if the Spore Life said some hype, it was not the only way out for Su Ran. In this way, he himself would not fall into absolute passivity. But Su Ran didn't expect the Spore Life to be so direct, so he talked about it in a few words. Liu Tingting didn't seem to notice Su Ran's series of psychological changes at all. She smiled and said, "We can build ships for you." When Su Ran heard the words, her heart moved slightly, but neither her face nor her heart was too disturbed because it was within his expectations. Since he came prepared, Su Ran not only prepared his own remarks, but also guessed what Spore Life might do, say, and hoped to achieve. One of Su Ran's many speculations. Su Ran remained calm. "Build a ship? What kind of ship?" "Of course it's our battleship." Liu Tingting said, "You need help. We are a declining civilization just like you, so we also know that recovery will not happen overnight. With the current state of your fleet, I am afraid that you will need help. It takes less time to recover, and if you are willing to give us a batch of resources, we can build our own warships, incorporate them into your fleet, and even provide you with greater help." Hearing this, Su Ran instantly had a scene. On the battlefield of returning to Earth and fighting against the Proxima fleet, he threw out the Spore Life battleship as cannon fodder, and withstood the powerful firepower of the Proxima fleet. A small price to achieve the ultimate victory. Of course, this picture Su Ran is just thinking about it, and he himself knows that it is not realistic. Su Ran said, "What kind of ship do you want to build?" Su Ran had already thought of the possibility that the Proxima Star fleet wanted to use the Xinjing fleet to build ships, and of course, she had predicted her own attitude and thoughts early on. Liu Tingting was also prepared for this question, and handed over a human tablet computer to Su Ran, which was exactly the appearance and some parameters of the battleship they wanted to build, and said, "Don't worry, biological organization as you can cultivate it by yourself. We will not attack those humans who are useful to you. But we need a batch of important early resources," and, while listening to Liu Tingting's description, Su Ran lowered his head and looked at the information on the battleship of Spore Life on the tablet in his hand. He only glanced at it, and he was slightly surprised. What Spore Life is going to build is a monster, and a real, living biological warship. The Swarm is also a biological race, but their space warships are basically non-living or semi-living. Even the Howlers, who are half planetary combat units, are only half biological, like the cybernetic era. The various limitations of the starry sky on creatures still failed to allow the swarm to truly activate all things, but the spore life intends to create a real living creature, and they only intend to create one. Its volume is almost the same as that of the Wanderer, and its appearance looks like some indescribable terrifying old god, with tentacles all over like an octopus. But this is only the shell. Its brain is composed of spore life, and it does not have any ability to carry people. The spore life will directly settle in its body, and directly form a huge neural network all over the shell in a parasitic manner, so that it realizes real activation and achieves the so-called living battleship. The genius remembers the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version reading website. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.